Live coverage of the 12 Hours of Sebring is brought to you by Natural Light Beer, the beer with a taste for food. When you're good and hungry, what's more natural than Natural Light? And by BF Goodrich TA radios, built for you to take on the road. And by Dodge, an American revolution, a performance revolution.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Despain, and TBS Sports is live in Central Florida. We're in the midst of some of America's great tourist attractions. Up there, Disney World, and off over that direction, the Space Center. Back over here, the glass-bottom boats of Weeki Wachee. But none of those attractions are what have drawn the huge crowd that has gathered here in the little community of Sebring. No, indeed. For motorsports fans, this place is a living legend. The Sebring Airport, 35 years ago, was converted into a racetrack. And since that year, back 1954, when a couple of unknowns won the first race here, this place has become Mecca each spring for fans of international endurance sports car racing. The biggest names from that sport from all around the world have gathered here today for the 34th running of the Sebring 12-Hour Classic. You're going to watch live coverage of the event with update reports throughout the 12 hours, live coverage of the finish, which will come tonight at 11 o'clock. TBS Sports has it all for you, and we've assembled quite a team to cover the action. Again, endurance sports car racing. The key, endurance. That means you've got to last. That means the pit crews, the people who work on the cars, are a very significant part of the equation here. We've assembled a pretty good team to cover the action down in the pits, and we're going to begin with Motor Week Illustrated regular Jerry Garrett.
Well, thanks, Dave. We are down here in the pits with Hans Stuck, who is starting up front in this race. And Hans, this is a very difficult track to win on. What's the equation to win?
I tell you, here you have to be so careful in the first 4 or 5 hours. You must take it easy. You must not go on qualifying speed, otherwise the cars are going to fall apart. You know, the Porsches have 80 more kilos on board, so this is more tough for suspension, for bodywork, for everything. And if you're not taking it easy, you're not going to win the race. I have a story from last year. I lapped H.A. Foyt last year after 40 minutes and then had a problem and he won the race, you know, so that's what it's all about.
Well, it's a difficult race to win, as Hans knows all too well.
We'll be back to meet more members of the broadcast team and tell you all about this 190-mile-an-hour, 12-hour battle for supremacy, the 34th running of the 12 Hours of Sebring, coming up live on TBS Sports. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be day-long action. Stay glued to your television sets. We'll have it all for you live and coming up. We'll be back with more of our coverage right after this timeout. STP Pit Communication Center at the Sebring Airport. Today, the Sebring racetrack and the event, the 12 Hours of Sebring. And we're now just about 19 minutes away from the fall of the green flag that will kick off this International Sports Car Classic. So much history, such a huge crowd here. It's going to be a great day for racing. And we're going to try to spice up the event a little bit with some of the awards that we'll be making from right here in the pit center. If you're a regular follower of Motor Week Illustrated on TBS Sports, you know that each week we name our champion spark plug Racer of the Week. Motor Week will come to you today live, naturally, from right here at Sebring, and we'll be naming our champion spark plug Racer of the Week. But when we go to the races live, we also name the champion spark plug Racer of the Day. Nominations will be made throughout the 12 hours. At the end of it, somebody is going to be very, very fortunate and win that award. Now, we also have, if I can keep all my props straight here, from the Tag Heuer Micro Split Watch people, the award that became very popular down at Daytona when race winner Al Hobart came away the winner, the Timing is Everything Award. Timing is everything in motorsports. We've got micro split stopwatches and beautiful men's and women's Tag Heuer watches for the winners, the people who come up with the timeliest moves throughout the event. Now, I have a confession to make. I have been nominated for the Timing is Everything move for a maneuver that took place in a motorcycle race a week ago. I have turned down the award. I refuse to accept it. Somebody here at Sebring is going to get that award today. I'm going to put a lot of miles on these crutches here today, and miles are what the Norelco Award is all about. The Norelco Mile Marker Award. The leader at 200 miles, 400 miles, 600, 800, and 1,000 miles of this event will get a Norelco Pocket Memo Dictator. It's the perfect thing for taking notes when you're going down the straightaway at 190 miles an hour. And if anybody can win 3 or 4 or perhaps even all 5 of those awards, we've got cash. $300, $500, $1,000 if they can win every one of them. So it's going to be an interesting and lucrative day down here in the pit center. We're going to go back to the pit road area now, where the Dean of American Motorsports Broadcasters is standing by, Chris Economaki.
Well, thank you, Dave. I'm with the defending champion of the 12 Hours of Sebring, A.J. Foyt, who will be teamed with a youngster, Drake Olson, and another Indianapolis winner, Danny Sullivan. Sullivan, your teammate, your teammate is over in Daytona doing some publicity work. What kind of a handicap, A.J., is this going to put on you, you know, not having a veteran Sebring runner to come to until late this afternoon?
Well, I really don't know. I think he's a good race driver, so he'd have no problem adapting to it or anything like that. So I think it'd be good, and he'll be here, and looking forward for him to get here to relieve me.
What about planning and strategy, AJ? They keep talking about racing is changing. You can't just get in the car and go. You have to plan it ahead of time. You guys have a game plan? Are you going to follow somebody? Are you going to try and lead? You're going to hold certain lap times? How are you going to do it?
Well, I think what we'll do is probably I'll run the first hour and just see how the race strategy is going and how fast they're planning on running like we did last year, and then go from there, because I'll probably run the first 2 hours and then, you know, rest.
AJ, the cars are 160 pounds heavier this year than they were here a year ago. What's it going to mean on things like chassis and shock absorbers?
Well, it's going to be harder on the cars naturally, and they could break more fragile. You know, and the course here is a very doable course. You know, it's a hard course on a race car, and it's very rough. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see, Chris.
Now, years ago, you and your Indianapolis drivers said that a Sebring and a Le Mans wasn't really a race. You were sort of babysitting a car. Is that still the case?
No, I'd say the last, you know, I haven't messed with it the last 4 or 5 years, but it's changed considerable since the last time we run the 12 and 24-hour races. It's more or less, still it's an endurance race, but it's still like a trophy dash. You still got to run hard and stay in contention all day.
Okay, thanks and good luck, AJ Foyt. And now let's go down pit road to my colleague, Jerry Garrett.
Well, thanks, Chris. We're down here with Bob Wallach, the man that AJ co-drove to victory with last year, and you got a strong competitor on another team now.
Well, AJ is always very competitive, and I wish him good luck, and I hope we're going to win and he's going to come second.
You're going to have to deal with him the whole race, probably. Do you figure it that way, too?
Well, we have to deal with AJ, but we have to deal with other cars, too, with Al Orbot and the Jaguars and Stuck, and, you know, a lot of good drivers and good, well-prepared cars, and it's going to be a very good race. It's used to be here.
You feel like this car is as well prepared and ready to win as your car last year?
Well, my car is very well prepared. The mechanics are doing a fantastic job, but it's a new race and new problems, and you never know what's going to happen.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Those are the two drivers who won this race last year. Now they've split up and are in different cars, and they're intense rivals, A.J. Foyt and Bob Wallach. The man who will call the play-by-play, cover the action, if you will, throughout the 12 hours of Sebring, have the best vantage point in the place. They're going to be way up on top, overlooking this interesting 4.5-mile course and the carnival that surrounds it. Let's go topside right now to Ken Squire.
Thank you, Dave. There is no track that mixes the heritage of American sports car racing with the action of today like Sebring. 34 years young, and when you get to this track, all you remember are the great names. Fangio and Moss racing here in the past. But now it's a whole new breed of competitor ready to take on this 4.86-mile course. Yesterday, Whitney Gantz at over 206 miles per hour went blazing around the airport part of the course. He told me as you dive in there, you think there's no way you're going to do it, but you always succeed. Well, what does it mean to a guy like Bill Adam, who won here in 1980 and is joining us for the broadcast?
Well, Sebring was always the magical name to me. It was a place of history, of tradition. I used to read and watch my heroes and the cars that I dreamt about. And winning here, it's the realization of anyone's dream.
It is a track that mixes today with yesterday, and as we give you a course description with a birdcage Maserati and a beautiful Ferrari, Dave Despain and Bill Adam fill in some of its history as you look at this magnificent race course.
The Sebring race course incorporates the access roads and runways of the Sebring Airport. And for all practical purposes, this is the start-finish line. Timing and scoring is here at the head of a front straightaway that's how fast, Bill Adam?
At this point, you're flat in third, fourth, and fifth gears, reaching speeds of, 150 miles an hour, getting set up for a very gentle left-hand turn number 1.
And that turn is absolutely flat out, right?
No lefting off here, just being very precise, Dave.
Jim Busby had a wild experience right here 1 year ago.
Came past the start-finish line and felt a tremendous thump as I came into turn 1. And all at once there was something sticking up through the floor of the car, and a big hunk of metal had come up through the floor, and a can openered the car all the way from the pedals almost back to my bottom, and then exited the car and cut all the suspension pickup points out in the bottom. And fortunately, I did leave the road and went straight ahead because I was riding on top of the debris. But I was able to get the car back under control and drive it back to the pit with a small cut on my leg, which I was very fortunate. It could have been a very serious incident.
The drivers maintained their 150-mile-an-hour speed through turns 2 and 3. It was in this segment of the racetrack that last year's winner, A.J. Foyt, had an experience similar to Busby's.
Well, I think last year, I ran across the exhaust pipe and tore the bottom of the race car out and hit me right in the rear end, which kind of bruised pretty good.
Well, bruises and all, A.J. went on to win the race, and we're about ready to leave the airport runways now and move out to those access roads, Bill Adam, as we head down toward turn 3 and the S's. What's that all about?
Well, turn 3 is a third gear corner at this point, maybe 70, 80, 90 mile an hour range, and accelerate up, a brief stab at fourth gear, accelerating down towards the S's. Pretty straightforward at this point, but we want to be very, very precise to enter those S's. Gentle left here, being careful not to get onto that sand. This can end someone's race very, very quickly. Mainly keeping clear for the setup into a long turn 5.
It's a fascinating part of the racetrack. It's about 135 miles an hour, but you're constantly turning. You're right on the razor. L remembers it well.
The weirdest thing was when I first ever came here in the 917 Porsche back in 71, and I was thundering down the back straightaway on my first lap of practice in the dark, and suddenly I saw all these lights coming towards me. I mean, a whole mass of lights coming out. I thought the whole of the pack were coming towards me, and in fact it was an airplane landing just on the runway beside me, and I had to sort myself out and miss it. That's the worst experience. That's enough, I think. Anything after that seems trivial.
It is an airport, it is a racetrack, and coming up, Bill, is everybody's favorite corner because it's the one that takes you home.
Well, it's a very safe corner for passing as well, Dave. Very wide at this point, and again, you can get by under braking. We're down to second gear, accelerating very gently at this point, stabbing on the power now, up to third and heading for that checkered flag.
And the moment that everybody hopes they'll see here at Sebring 1986, the fall of the checkered flag, ending a lap of one of America's truly historic racetracks.
The 12 Hours of Sebring, live here on the Superstation WTBS. Stand by for all the action. We'll be back after these messages. Cars stand at the ready along pit road. The old Le Mans looking start here. The drivers coming out to them at this moment, and a record crowd is amassing. It's blocked every artery into the Sebring facility. There may be a slight delay in the start of today's race. It is a record crowd for sure. A cool day greeting this tremendous throng that is gathered at Sebring to see the 34th running of the 12 Hours of this great racing classic. 34 years ago, 1952, a couple of not exactly household racing names, Harry Gray and Larry Kulak, roared to victory in the inaugural 12 Hours of Sebring at a speed of nearly 63 miles per hour in a Fraser Nash. Since then, the greatest names in international road racing have focused on Sebring at this time of the year. Fangio, Phil Hill, Moss, Ickx, Andretti. The list goes on and on. Dave Despain tells us that this year's starting lineup is as star-studded as any in the 34-year history of the event.
We begin with former winners, those who have tasted Sebring glory and return in search of another sip. A.J. Foyt, America's best-known racer, teamed with Frenchman Bob Wallach to win here a year ago. The 51-year-old Foyt now focuses a lot of his racing effort on Camel GT cars, and he has a new teammate in his quest for 2 straight. Drake Olson is very, very fast, but he's shown a distressing fondness for wall contact in his first 2 outings this year. Wallach also returns fresh from victory in the Miami Grand Prix, co-driving with Paolo Barilla, the speedy young Italian who won last year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. Defending endurance world champ Hans Stuck joins Bob Aiken in Porsche number 5. They've both won here before. All of the above, in fact, are in Porsches, but Jaguar boasts a pair of former winners as well. Ageless Brian Redmond, senior member of the Green Team, won in '78. His teammate, Hurley Haywood, has won it twice. They'll co-drive with Vern Chupin, who's never won Sebring but has a Le Mans victory to his credit. John Paul Jr., who won in a Porsche 4 years ago, will start from the pole today in a Buick. Of all the former winners in the field, the best bet to repeat is Porsche-mounted Al Holbert. In February, he won Daytona.
Supposed to do, but once you get under race conditions, they're all going to do it. It's probably 150 mile an hour corner. It's very, very quick, and with it being bumpy, sometimes the vibration gets so bad in the car that your vision actually blurs for fractions of a second.
The old eyeballs get to dancing around in there as you come down what was the east-west runway.
Yeah, I think the best seat in the house is going to be on Al Holbert's comfortable chair, as he talked about. The Porsche seemed to absorb those bumps a little bit better, and that's probably a large part of the longevity that those cars have.
What are the possibilities that the Buick Hawk can stand up there and take the really terrible beating they take on this course against these 962s?
Well, realistically, I don't hold too much hope for that happening. It has a soft spot in my heart because that was my car last year, of course, but to try and take a March chassis and to beat the Porsches on this track, I think is pretty slim.
Pace cars coming in, ladies and gentlemen. The 34th running of the 12 Hours of Sebring is underway. On the brake, Whitney Gant's car dives out in front. 77 cars into turn 1. Jaguar out high, the 04, Brian Redmond. Taking a very high line. Got one car in the wall right here on the straightaway line. Number 51 has nailed the wall. That is the Dave Hines Don Yenko car. His Corvette slamming the wall as they took the start. Well, you can see the tire marks. He hit, bounced off the wall, tries to fire after he clears traffic.
That's fortunate. He had it fired. Okay, he's got it fired there now. That means there won't be a necessity for a pace car. That's good. We'll have a flying first lap then.
Field already into the S's. Lap number 1 in the 12 Hours of Sebring underway. And now you see the number 14 out in front. That's Al Holbert and company.
Bit of a shocker that Al's going for the lead already, but obviously he saw an opening and decided to take it rather than take the risk of maybe getting tangled with John in that opening lap.
A.J. Foyt has moved into 3rd position. A.J. really taking a liking to road racing these days. He and Preston Hand, they're a rare combination. Drake Olson on that team. He will be the 2nd driver. And Danny Sullivan will be flying in. He should be here around 4 o'clock this afternoon, defending Indianapolis 500-mile champion, to also ride in this car number 8, currently maintaining 3rd spot.
There, John has retaken the lead from Al, and they're not going to be holding back too much in this race. The idea of an endurance race. Really fast down here. This is where these cars will be running 190, 200 miles an hour as they approach an extremely fast right-hander leading onto the backside of the course. Look at the lead John stretching out there.
From Laguna, California, Whitney Gantz, 29 years old, Stanford graduate, in the lead. An art major, no less. And in the 2nd position, Al Holbert.
You can see the Porsche close up just a little bit through that corner. You'll probably see the same thing happen on this 180-degree sweeper that leads onto our start-finish straight.
Here they are.
He's going to try a pass under braking.
Holbert's coming to attempt to pass into turn 12 and makes the move.
Good, clean pass.
Brilliant driver, Al Holbert.
Oh, he is so intelligent as well as having all that talent. Just a delight to watch.
Whitney Gantz making another stab at first place. The number 46 car, the Buick Hawk, pulling up.
AJ's running a good, strong 3rd place, and I believe it's Bob Wallach in 4th.
Bob Wallach, who teamed with AJ to win this race. Everybody remembers the controversial story at Daytona when AJ joined the team in the midst of the night. The man from Strasbourg, France, was not overjoyed. Here's Jerry Garrett.
Okay, here's Jack Baldwin down in the pits. They've got the car fired. It looks like he's going to lose about a lap out of this. It's getting out pretty easy under the circumstances. There he's pulling away and back out in the race.
Fearless Racing Team putting car number 76 finally on a lap down.
Great news. That really shouldn't hurt them. Over the course of a 12-hour race, a 1-lap deficit at the start isn't nearly as bad as what it seems. This is an extremely fast car, and with people running basically a reduced pace, they can charge a little bit and get back up there.
Through the hairpin, Holbert staying in front of Whitney Gantz. Are you surprised at the way Holbert's running? Roger Mandeville.
I expected Al to maybe run more of a reduced pace. He is very much a thinker, not just someone who gets in the car and stuffs his foot into it.
Roger Mandeville just pulled on pit road that top GTU qualifier, and he was showing some damage, heavy damage, in the right rear of his car as he came below us. There are the 2 leaders going, and I believe Whitney's going to take another stab at first place.
I think
31 slows down and comes in.
I think we'll definitely see a pass. Yep.
Well, he tried, but Al Holbert really goes for it here. They say the pace car may be coming on the course and collect these field. We'll be back with more live action from the 12 Hours of Sebring on the Superstation after these messages. 9 miles per hour in his last lap. Al Holbert continues to lead. John Paul Jr., we have been told, is now in that car number 46, not Whitney Gantz, for the first hour, hour and a half of the race. We understand they are talking about bringing the caution car out because we've had a couple of cars in trouble. Number 48 hit the tire wall up at turn 7. That's the Gary Wunzer Bruce Dewey car. The number 51 has limped around the course and come to a stop. We saw that car in trouble here a little earlier, Dave Hines and Don Yenko's car. Leader Al Holbert setting a very quick pace. A bit of a surprise here.
It really is. The Porsches, of course, as well as any of the turbocharged cars, are going to run a little bit better right now with the weather being cool. The density of the air is that much greater. You pack more air into the cylinders and the horsepower goes up accordingly. But for him to run away from the pack, as he seems to be doing right now, is that's very uncharacteristic of Al. Normally he sits back and lets everybody make the mistakes. Then he takes over in the last hour and runs away and wins it.
But here, once again, we have a challenge from second place.
John's hanging right on his tail. You can see as he's going up this back section of the course, gets through the S's and enters that 90-degree right-hander. The last few laps, he's actually been sliding sideways quite a bit as he's trying to get that power down as early as possible.
A.J. Foyt running third. Bruce Levin's car. Wolick and Marilla is in fourth. Then in fifth is the Hans Stuck car, the Aiken machine. First Jaguar runs in sixth behind those 962s. Then in seventh is the number 67 of Busby and Brasfield, and running eighth is Lanier and Moretti. Ninth is Brian Redmond and Hurley Haywood, and Carson Bear, Jim Mullins' car, is running in the 10th position.
Now, John may have a good shot at passing Al here. Al had to get off the gas just a little bit to pass that back marker. Oh, no, he didn't quite make it. What happens when you lift off the gas at that point? You lose the boost of a turbocharger, and you may drop, as much as 200 horsepower. You have to try and keep your foot a little bit on it to keep the boost available.
Checking on GTO, Byrne and Dallenbach are leading. In second, Riggins, Forbes, Elliott Forbes Robinson, and running third is Terry Labonte and the Parsons gang.
You know, the GTO class just continues to get better year after year. Last year, the Fords were absolutely dominant with the Roush Protofab Mustangs, and this year we've got good challengers with, as you say, Elliott Forbes Robinson now in a Firebird, the Jack Baldwin and Wally Dallenbach Jr. Camaro. We've got the Oldsmobile Tornado out there and the Oldsmobile of Terry Labonte.
Great battle going on for first place as they weave through the slower cars. And here comes again John Paul making a stab at first place. Not successful. Al Holbert, the thinking man's racer, not driver, but racer, stays in first. John Paul Jr. right there in second spot. And from the in-car camera, you're following Jim Busby now. That's the car number 67. And in their driver rotation, I believe that Brasfield is in the car at the present. John Morton is in the car to lead off today.
Well, that's an excellent view from one standpoint, that even with the sophisticated dampening that is being used holding that camera in the car, you can still see the tremendous pounding and vibration.
Leaders are pulling away from the field. Here they are. Al Holbert in first. Maintaining second, John Paul Jr. Porsche 962 in front. Buick in second.
Johnny's going to try it.
Jr. leads in the 12 Hours of Sebring. Al Holbert in a Porsche 962 is running in second place. A.J. Foyt is in third, and West Germany's Hans Stuck is in fourth. The Bruce Wolick car is now in fifth, and the B.F. Goodrich car, the car camera car, is being recorded in sixth with the Jaguar, and Bob Tullius maintaining the seventh position. Ken Squire, Bill Adam topside here watching Al Holbert back on the fastest part of the course.
You know, there's another excellent battle out there, Ken, right now. We're seeing a couple of the good old boys. The Ricky Rudd, Bill Elliott, Folger's Mustang up against Terry Labonte's Oldsmobile. And here's some stock car races that are really enjoying our type of racing.
All right, let's get a racing update right now as we go to the GM Goodwrench Motor Week Illustrated Racing Update with Bob Varsha.
Thank you, Ken. All kinds of racing action going on around the country, and we're going to try to summarize it for you real quickly. It started yesterday right here at Sebring, where a record number of cars turned out for the first showroom stock event of the year.
Car number 14 now leading by just 35 seconds as the second place car is gaining. More in a moment. Enjoy this event. Some of the folks not enjoying it today. Attrition very high. And among those is the Bruce Levin car. But here's the early part of the going. Looking here at A.J. Foyt, who had 3 incidents in 10 laps. He was leading at the time that this happened. Was able to continue. Remember, they're now in 3rd place. A bit later in the event, the leader, number 14, this was Derek Bell driving. He was at turn 8, slapping the wall at over 100 miles an hour, able to continue. They lost a couple of spots and then came back up in front. Now watch what happened to the Camel Light leader. This was Ron Pauley, 19 years old, out of California, crashing that Mazda when it was in the lead down at turn 10. The Bruce Levin car is now out of the race. That's one of the major attrition numbers in this event. Bob Wallach, who has won this event previously, Don Yanko and the Heinz car is out as we look at some of the attrition which has taken place through the first 5 hours of competition. We'll be back with more of the 12 hours of Sebring following these messages.
GTP Pit Communication Center, and we've got some awards to give away. Come on with me over here to the Norelco Mile Marker Awards. Incremental breakdown on the race. So far, we've given away 3 Norelco Pocket Memo dictaphones. Darren Brassfield led at 200 miles. He got one. 400-mile leader, Hans Stuck. We have just passed 600 miles in the event. Al Unser Jr. picks up the Norelco dictaphone. The producers have got a few $100 up for anybody who can win 3, so stand by for more on that. Now, the Tag Heuer Timing is Everything Award. It will not go to Phil Parsons. Parsons drove his car off the racetrack, spun out, got into the grass. No big problem until the fire broke out under the car, right under the gas tank. He is not going to win a micro split stopwatch, but the fireman is. He's Johnny on the spot, gets that fire out. They quickly hustled the car back into the pits, effected repairs, and Parsons is back in the race. Hats off to Smokey the Bear. He's going to get a Tag Heuer micro split stopwatch and go into the running for the grand prize. We'll be back at 5 o'clock with more live coverage of the 12 hours of Sebring.
Continuing live coverage of the 12 hours of Sebring is brought to you by B.F. Goodrich TA Radios, built for you to take on the road.
Choir alongside is Bill Adams. We come to you live from Sebring. We have a change of leadership, averaging 117 miles an hour, some 4 miles per hour over the record. The Aiken car, with Joe Gardner now driving, is leading. A.J. Foyt's car has been running in second, but it's slowing. There's the leader with a lap almost by himself on the field.
Seems that no one wants to win this race. First, Al Holbert is struck by a seeming turbocharger failure, and we don't know what's happening next.
The track is always the issue here. Let's go to Chris Economaki with that story.
The drivers in the race that are getting out of their cars now are telling me that the debris on the track is unbelievable. That it's hard to find a clean path through the debris. A recent yellow flag they thought would see the track cleaned up, but such is not the case. A.J. Foyt in car number 8 is on his 3rd nose piece. Look at what the debris has done to this nose piece and the other nose piece here, damaged by debris. They say it is impossible to find a clean path around the track, and they are amazed that there haven't been more tire problems because of the debris on the track.
Elliott and Rudd continue to lead in the GTO class. Chris, are you concerned that this may be as high an attrition as we've ever had in this race?
Well, it's amazing. Some of the cars that are not adequately prepared are in terrible trouble. Even some first-line teams have had things like distributors break. The Toyota had a gearbox go. Charlie Seelix, who last year ran Ford team, had a distributor break. A lot of cars have had mechanical problems, and the race is just half over. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot more go out before the checker flag waves tonight. And that will be back with more.
Leading GTU. We'll be back with more in a moment.
Let's revamp the leaders in this race. As you just heard, Al Holbert, Derek Bell, and Al Unser Jr. have suffered a turbo problem. They are out of the lead. New leaders, Bob Aiken, Hans Stuck, and Joe Gardner, also in a Porsche 962. The Camel Light division for smaller prototype cars, Charles Morgan and Logan Blackburn in a Buick-powered Tiger Racer. Over here in the GTO division, an all-American show, Bill Elliott and Ricky Rudd doing their NASCAR colleagues proud in a Ford Mustang. And in the GTU division, Tom Kendall, Bob Reed, and John Hogdell in a Mazda RX-7, a car that has dominated that class. we're into giving awards here at Sebring, and we're going to have a very special one at the end of this race, the Champion Spark Plug Racer of the Day. If you watch Motor Week Illustrated, you know we give one out through a straw poll of our staff members to pick the best racing performance of the week, and I've got a nomination. Derek Bell, driving with Al Hobart, has a chronically bad back. Yet he has gotten into that car on one of the most punishing race courses you can find around the world, and Derek is driving full stints with that bad back. He's my nomination for our Champion Spark Plug Racer of the Day. Now let's go back to Ken Squire.
Car number 5 continues to lead by a lap over the Sullivan-Olson-Foyt effort, and that one is now seemingly in trouble. There you see the B.F. Goodrich car. That's the Busby-Morton-Brassfield car, which is running 5th overall, and you're inside the B.F. Goodrich car as it runs around this course at sometimes over 200 miles per hour. Stay tuned for Motor Week Illustrated live from Sebring at 5:35.
Is live from the 12 Hours of Sebring. We'll show you the wildest finish yet in Speedway motorcycle competition. A first-time winner is crowned in Super Speedway stock car racing. And from Chris Economaki,
is there any business done during the Sebring 12 hours? Find out today on Motor Week
Illustrated is brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer, who invite you to see the 1986 Ford cars and trucks. Have you driven a Ford lately?
Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Despain, and Motor Week is live from the Motorcraft Race Headquarters in breezy Sebring, Florida.
I'm Lynn St. James. The next half hour, we're going to bring you up to date on all the action from one of America's most classic sports car races. The 34th running of the 12 Hours of Sebring is well past the halfway mark, and TBS Sports is going to be here until the checkered flag falls at 11 p.m. Eastern Time tonight.
If we don't freeze to death. I don't care what you 15-year Florida residents say. It's cold here. We've got drag racing news today. We'll tell you who's qualified fast down in Brazil at the Formula One Grand Prix. But we're going to start right off with that Sebring story and a battle for the lead. The number 5 Porsche of Hans Stuck, Joe Gardner, and Bob Aiken is currently leading this race. They have just made a pit stop and lead by the narrowest of margins over Al Hobart and Derek Bell. And Lynn, I'm wondering if you've seen any surprises thus far.
Well, Dave, there is, because 7 of the top 10 cars are still running in the top 10, and that's really not traditional Sebring. Usually they're breaking.
Cars that qualified well are still running up front. They haven't had a lot of trouble.
Well, they've had trouble, but they've been able to recover. So I don't know if it's the crews are getting a lot better or the cars are getting better.
Well, the question is whether Hobart and Bell can recover and catch these guys. The leaders, Gartner with Al Unser Jr. now driving the second-place car. To find out how we got to this point in the event, let's go to the man who has anchored the telecast and our coverage of the race thus far, Ken Squire.
Thank you, Dave. 77 cars cracked the starting line at about 11 o'clock this morning. John Paul Jr. jumping out in front of the car that Whitney Gantz had qualified so well. The Reinhold Yost car blew a piston and was out early and gave the lead to this car. Number 14, Al Hobart, winner of the 24 Hours of Daytona. Tremendous battling continued further back in the pack. Here you see Gantz, and there you see the Hans Stuck number 5, followed by A.J. Foyt as they diced for second position. Foyt was to take the lead, but only momentarily. The hairpin turn proved his undoing, as you see right here. He was able to continue, still very much in the hunt. A.J. Foyt and company. Al Hobart retook the lead. Then car 86, the one that won Miami, that machine fell out. 67, Busby's car, had their problems after leading. They came down. And 14's number was back on top. But watch this. Derek Bell slapping the wall at over 100 miles per hour. They had to pit. They were in for some 11 minutes. They gave up the lead, and currently it is car number 5, Stuck back in front another time. Al Hobart back on the track with Derek Bell in second place. The 67 car is maintaining third as you watch it live here at Sebring. Back to Dave Despain.
And, of course, watching the race, Lynn, a record crowd in spite of these chilly temperatures.
That's right, Dave. I think these Sebring fans would come to Sebring, whether it was snowing, raining, or hot, whatever. I mean, they love it. And, you know, it's starting to get dark. In fact, if you notice on the screen, the sun is becoming a factor, so it's going to get more exciting.
The complexion of the event changes as the light begins to fade. We're going to cover it right down to the finish with hourly reports and complete coverage of the finish beginning at 10:19 tonight, Eastern Time.
Coming up on Motor Week, a success story involving an all-women pit crew.
See it all. Stay with us. Live at Sebring, we're watching the current leader in the GTO class standings from our vantage point in the Motorcraft Race headquarters here. and Ricky Rudd, the stock car boys. And right ahead of them, you get a picture of the second place car. That's Bruce Jenner and Greg Pruitt about to be overlapped by the leaders. And meanwhile, you've got the overall leader in the race coming up right behind them. So three of the leading cars in this race right there together. And the team of Elliott and Rudd have just lapped Jenner and Pruitt, the second place car. Lynn, a lot of big names are not here in this race.
That's right, Dave. You know, both Ford Probes are gone. The Corvette isn't here, but the BMWs, they had both cars here, but one of them burned and the other crashed badly, really bad, and destroyed the car, and they pulled out both cars. So it looks like it's going to be the Porsches again as the favorites in the top.
Well, they, of course, are the dominant cars here as we watch the leading Porsche of Bob Aiken just leaving the screen, and we turn to stock car racing. After last year's Winston Cup season, Ron Bouchard left Jack Beebe's Race Hill Farm team to go elsewhere, and so Jack hired Morgan Shepherd to pilot his number 47 Buick. The choice paid off last Sunday, Atlanta International Raceway. Shepherd scored his first super speedway win in the Motorcraft 500, and Benny Phillips has the rather unusual details.
Before the 500 here at Atlanta International Raceway, Morgan Shepherd had a funny story to tell.
Well, you know, sometimes coming to the racetrack, it's a little more hectic than driving out on the racetrack. Was coming in front of the racetrack here, and this guy all of a sudden turned left, and I got him right in the driver's door and bent his door up, and the guy gets out of the car, and he seen who I was, and he says, "Oh, no," said I would have to turn in front of a driver.
Shepherd was not injured in that crash. He started third in the field and worked his way right to the front, where he battled for the lead with pole winner Dale Earnhardt. These two entertained the fans all afternoon.
We ran good, but we was loose, and then we pushed too much, and it just took us most of the day to really get the car adjusted up the way we wanted.
Shepherd's crew had plenty of time to adjust the car because of 9 caution flags which slowed the race. The most notable accidents involved Kyle Petty and Neil Bonnet. Bonnet was hauled away on a stretcher, but his injury turned out to be nothing more than a bruised ankle. During the cautions, Bill Elliott got his act together and moved up to challenge Shepherd. But the final yellow of the afternoon came when Kenny Schrader wrecked in turn 2, and this changed the entire complexion of the race.
I'm telling you, my heart went clear to my stomach because, you know, the car was working so well, Benny, and anytime that something like that happens, you know you got to come in and change tires. You might not get your tire stagger right, but Jake assured me that it was the same as the other tires. And, you know, when we took off, the car worked just like it did before.
Elliott, running second at the time, made 2 stops for tires under the yellow, and he was history. That left Earnhardt and Shepherd to renew their early race battle. The green came with 5 laps to go, and Shepherd's crew was confident their driver could hold off Earnhardt.
I said, "Now, you ain't got 1 car to beat. That's that 3 car. I said, "You know how he's been running all day." He said, "Oh, I know it." He said, "Well, when the race starts, don't talk to me no more." He said, "I got to do what I got to do in the race."
You knew we had Dale right on our back bumper. He was strong at the start of the race, and we know we had a job cut out for us. So I told Morgan, I said, "Between you and me," I said, "do whatever you have to. If there's any fines, I'll pay them."
In the dash to the checkered flag, Earnhardt knew his work was cut out for him.
Well, in chassis-wise, I think we had him beat, but we busted ahead of there about, I don't know, 100, 110 laps to go, and, you know, the car got a little weak off the corner, so he outmotored us a little bit, and, you know, has a good race. Congratulations to him and his team, Jake and Jack Beebe and all the guys that worked real hard for that.
Shepherd held off Earnhardt to take his first super speedway win and his first Grand National victory since 1981 at Martinsville, Virginia. Terry Labonte was third and Darrell Waltrip fourth. The finish by Waltrip put him on top of the point standings as the teams take 2 weeks off before heading for Bristol, Tennessee. From Atlanta International Raceway for MotorWeek Illustrated, I'm Benny Phillips.
All right, thank you, Benny. Shepherd's crew chief, of course, Jake Suitcase Elder, has been with enough Winston Cup teams to earn his nickname, but he certainly has demonstrated that in addition to that suitcase, he also carries a bag of winning tricks. We're going to tip the old hat to Jake because last Sunday he proved again that he can still get a winning car and his driver to victory lane. Race Hill Farms crew chief Jake Suitcase Elder gets our Wrangler U.S. Air Force Reserve Behind the Scenes Award and a new outfit from Wrangler. This week we're at Sebring, and a lot of those stock car boys are in action right out here this week, including the likes of Elliott, Labonte, Rudd, the Parsons brothers, all here doing business in sports cars.
And more on the Atlanta stock car story. Dave, a second driver, scored his first super speedway win there, and he's the guy with the all-woman pit crew, showing that we can not only drive them, but we can crew them. Gary Garrett reports on the last Saturday's ARCA race.
Last fall at Atlanta International Raceway was an expensive afternoon for a number of ARCA competitors, including number 25, Bill Venturini, who almost totaled his car. But in last weekend's Dixie 300, Venturini had a much better day, running among the leaders the whole way. Venturini, who is famous for his all-girl pit crew, stayed out of trouble during the wreck-strewn race, and during the 9th and last caution period of the day, Venturini elected to stay on the track on old tires while his rivals Lee Raymond, number 1, and David Sosby, number 81, pitted for fresh rubber. Now that gave them a temporary advantage, and they were able to pull on by. But once that edge was gone, Venturini was able to pull back around and take the lead with this fender-rubbing pass of Sosby with 12 laps to go. After that, Venturini was untouchable. He drove to his first career victory on a super speedway by 1 second over Sosby. He collected about $10,000, which will just about pay for the damage he suffered the last time he came here.
And now as we come back live at Sebring, we're watching the GTO leader. And again, it is the stock car boys, Elliott and Rudd, running out front. And Lynn, you've got a great Bill Elliott story here.
Yeah, I talked to Bill a little bit earlier, and I found out he'd asked the IMSA officials if he could drive for 6 hours and then Ricky Rudd drive for 6 hours.
He wanted to go home.
They said, no, they can't do that.
What about the Chevys? We thought maybe they were going to be strong in GTO.
Yeah, they showed very well in qualifying, but, they also, I think, had some qualifying motors. But I think Ford has really kept their act together, and they're running right up there 1-2.
The Ford's running out front, and Elliott has just put a lap on the team of Bruce Jenner and Greg Truitt. That's the current running in the GTO division. Chris Economaki always leaves the racetrack with a notebook full of interesting information. He's standing by right now down on pit road.
A stroll through the pits at Sebring reveals that the tire business is big business. With Goodyear, Bridgestone, Hoosier, Firestone, Yokohama, BFG, Avon, and McCrary all here with cars in the race, and a racing tire going for as much as $165. The 7,500 tires brought here for sale to the racing community will command $875,000. And the tire men say they expect them all to be sold by the time the checkered flag waves tonight. And there may be a new permanent circuit here at Sebring next year, an all-weather circuit, to get some of the testing business that goes for $2,500 a day rental. NASCAR drivers Bill Elliott and Ricky Rudd in a Mustang, and Phil and Benny Parsons and Terry Labonte in an Olds Calais, say they're in today's race to get a head start on NASCAR's LR Series, the road races series that'll go on the streets of America next year. Lastly, NASCAR's rule changes announced this week, bigger carburetors, larger spoilers, and front air dams should benefit the Fords more than the GM cars, says Ricky Rudd. More horsepower and better handling. Well, that's it from the pits. Now let's go to Ken Squire, who has more late racing news.
Well, Chris, the major Motor Week Illustrated story of the week took place in Savannah, Georgia. Let's go to the videotape. This is not the exact incident, but it's so similar we couldn't resist showing it to you. This was Randy Mamola's get-off. This is almost an exact duplicate of what happened to Dave Despain while he was in first place. But Despain was run over by the second-place competitor. And what a relief for men like Freddie Spencer, who have no longer concern and pressure about Despain coming after them. See, Dave, you get the Motor Week Crutch Award.
I've been had. I have been had. Randy Mamola's going to go win the World Championship, and this is all I've got to show for him. But I had fun. We'll be right back with more live from Sebring. I'll get you for that. At the Motorcraft Race headquarters here in Sebring, this is what kind of scene we're overlooking. Dave Despain and Lynn St. James live as we watch the Camel Light leading car. That's the black car right there. We're going to tell you more about the Camel Light cars. One of 4 classes racing here today.
And 2 more classes saw action yesterday. Bob Barsha reports on the Sebring Vintage Classic and the Firestone Firehawk Enduro.
The racing weekend here in Sebring got off to a vintage start as Peter Sachs and his 61 Ferrari 250 held off Sterling Moss in a 59 Maserati for victory in a battle of historic cars. Then a record 96 street stockers took the green flag for the Firestone Firehawk 6 Hour. Despite all the traffic, there were few major mishaps, and those there were hurt little except egos and pocketbooks. In the last hour, attrition claimed 2 out of 3 leaders. First, the Porsche 944 of Sean Hendricks and Drake Olson blew an engine while on the point. Then one cylinder after another deserted the Camaro of Tom Neal, Bill Warner, and John Heinrichsey. That left the lead to the Michigan father-son driving team of Tom and Doug Goad, who fought off a complete loss of brakes for the last half hour to take the checkered flag. For Motor Week Illustrated, this is Bob Varsha reporting.
A lot of history here at Sebring. It's fun to watch those vintage cars run, Lynn.
That's right. It really brings that history forward, too, because the drivers were here back in the old days, and so were the cars.
We're going to talk about some friends of yours. Let's go to the Camel Light division here and check on that class of competition. These are the lighter weight prototype cars. And how about Brent O'Neill, Steve Shelton, and Don Courtney? They're doing a good job out there.
They really are. They're real good endurance drivers as well as some good old Formula V drivers, and they've got a good Buick engine in there, and they're running strong.
They are leading this division after Don and Kelly Marsh and Ron Pally were leading and crashed the car. And as we watch them in action here, live from Sebring, let me tell you about some other racing going on. At Martinsville, Virginia, a stock car triple header is coming up tomorrow. Greg Sachs set a track record to earn the pole for the modified race. Brett Bodine will be up front for the Grand National, formerly Sportsman cars. Butch Zervakis has the late model stock pole. Billy Ewing has turned the quickest pro stock lap in drag racing history up at Darlington, South Carolina this weekend. And Don Garland's new fully enclosed top fuel car ran over 268 miles an hour at Gainesville, Florida. And now in Brazil, finally, Eric Senna will have the pole for tomorrow's Brazilian Grand Prix.
With Formula One in the news today, let's take a look to yesteryear. Another page from my Valvoline Motorsports scrapbook.
'67 Mexico City, the final round for the Formula One World Championship, the stage for a pair of assaults on racing milestones. New Zealand's Denny Hulme hoped to win his first World Driving Championship for Brabham, while the brilliant Scotsman Jimmy Clark was just one victory short of Juan Manuel Fangio's record for career Grand Prix wins. Clark's race got off to a bizarre start. He was hit from behind on the grid by Dan Gurney's Eagle. Gurney was out, but Clark's Lotus emerged unscathed to join in a furious duel for the lead with teammate Graham Hill. When a broken suspension dropped Hill from the race, Clark sped on to win. Hulme finished third, giving the 1967 Grand Prix of Mexico a historic victory stand. Hulme with his first World Championship in only his second year of Formula One, and Clark with his record-tying 24th career triumph. I'm Ken Squire. Join me next week for another great moment in motorsports.
Let's check the Norelco Mile Marker Awards. As you know, we're giving away at 200, 400, 600, 800 miles and 1,000 miles the Norelco Pocket Memo Dictator, and it was $1,000 if anyone could clean house here today. The only man that stands a chance at additional money is this man. That's the Aiken car. The Coke machine is going to take the 800-mile marker. If he takes down to 1,000 miles, he can pick up $300, but not the total grand. That's how things stand at the Norelco Mile Marker Awards at this time.
And that's going to get us to the point where we need to take a quick break here, Lynn. We're going to be back with more live from the Motorcraft Race Headquarters at Sebring right after this. Sebring enjoying the race and braving the chilly temperatures. The folks from Motorcraft have provided us with all the hospitality in the world, and that's keeping things warm up here in their race headquarters as we enjoy the Sebring action live. The GTO division is the only class we haven't really covered of the four that are in the race here. And for that report, let's go back to Ken Squire.
Well, as we take a look at GTO, Elliott is driving, and what a job he is doing. They're running 6 overall in the Roush Ford Mustang. Car number 50 out in front, the Bruce Jenner car in second position. In the GTU classification, Kendall Reed and Hodgson are running 11th overall in their Mazda RX-7, and they're holding the fort in GTU while that overall position has the chance of putting them right up in the top 10. And finally, taking a look at the Camel Light Series. There we have O'Neill and Shelton. That Buick Argo is running 9th overall and leading in that series. Dave?
In recent weeks, we've seen lots of rock'em sock'em action in Mickey Thompson's new Stadium Off-Road Racing Series. By comparison, last weekend's Grand National Truck Final in the Houston Astros was downright tame. Once again, Jerry Garrett.
The Houston Astrodome was the site of the 4th round of the Mickey Thompson Off-Road Grand Prix. Ford driver Jeff Huber had the lead until this bow at the outside wall that put Steve Millen's Toyota in front of a rapidly disintegrating field. Behind Millen, his teammate Ivan Stewart battled it out with Mazda driver Glenn Harris for second place. Harris finally won that battle. Meanwhile, up front, Millen was cruising to his third victory in 4 races this season, and he has the series point lead. For Motor Week, this is Jerry Garrett reporting.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Now we're just been handed a note here that A.J. Foyt's car has officially retired from this event. The defending champion is out of the 12 Hours of Sebring. Want to go to motorcycle racing now. The Denny Pyatt Memorial Speedway race in El Centro, California. You're going to like this. Mike Dwyer had the heat race won until Bryce Eichelberger made a little more last lap charge than he intended. Look at that. Race announcer asked the starter about that near miss.
I gave the riders the white flag. They were coming down for the checkered flag. One of the riders, Bryce Eichelberger, his bike went straight up in the air. All I could see was engine cases and front wheel. And I figured it was time to head for the pasture. And I dove over the starting gate and up on the little platform there. And I felt the wheel go right by my head.
So are there any points penalties for the starter over?
No, but we have a first, second, and third division in Speedway, and I think he's going to start in about 6th division if we can arrange it.
My heart goes out to that guy. Champion Spark Plug Racer of the Week. We asked Jack Beebe, Winston Cup car owner, why he picked Morgan Shepherd to drive his car.
My wife and I talked about it, and my wife said that she thought that Morgan would be the best one to get. And I talked with Jake about it. I said, who would you get? And he said, Morgan. I went out to California, and I talked to Bill Gazaway, and he said, I think Morgan would probably be good, and we hired Morgan.
Jack made a good decision. Last Sunday, Morgan Shepherd won his first super speedway race ever, and today he is our champion spark plug racer of the week. And Lynn St. James, I don't know where the time goes. We're going to have to get out of here. I want to ask you, as we wrap it up here live from Sebring, for a prediction in this event.
Well, I know the Porsches are definitely going to go, and I think the luck has been so good. You know, the teams have been doing so good at getting the cars back in. We've got Holbert. I think Holbert's going to do it.
Ken Squire, I'm wondering about this cold weather. Do you have an opinion on whether this might affect the attrition?
I'm not so concerned about the weather as I am about the tires as we get to this point. This track is really chewing them up. We've seen a lot of cars come in, take on new noses. I just hope that the Bob Aiken car can hold it together. That's a good stout team. I think it'd be good for IMSA if he could get back in and win this thing for the second time.
I think the fascinating thing about this event is how close it is right now. You've got those two Porsches on the lead lap. You've got a great battle going on in GTO. It's going to be a great race. I hope everybody will stay around to the finish, and I hope to see you some more on Motor Week.
Thank you. I hope so, too.
Lynn St. James with us today in the Motorcraft Race Headquarters. Now, remember, we will be back very soon. In fact, just 25 minutes from now, we'll be joining you again with the 6:30 report live from Sebring, Florida.
And your local Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately?
Nips over the horizon. The old thrills and chills cliche comes out here. Bill Adam, I can't ever recall it being colder.
Well, I'm so cold I can't ever remember being this cold.
Hans Stuck's car, number 5, Joe Gartner and Aiken continue to lead here. Moments ago, they made a driver change, and Chris Economack, was in the pits with them.
All right, Joe, you've just given the car over to Bob Aiken. You're leading by 2 laps. How are you? How is the car? And how is the track?
I'm very fine. The car feels very comfortable. Car is very good. Everything feels all right. I think it's, if anything doesn't broke, we are on the front.
Okay, how's Stucky program? You have a big smile, Stucky. Will you get in the car before the night is out?
Almost. Bob Aiken is now doing another 50 minutes to get points, and then I can drive right into the night.
As matters stand, it's perfect for the drivers here, this cool condition, but it's a little frosty for the fans. That number 5 continues to stay out in front, and we'll have more on the action here in the 12 Hours of Sebring in a moment.
Sebring live on TBS Sports. Here are some of the statistics of the race thus far. We're 7.5 hours into it. And here in the STP Pit Communication Center, interesting story surrounding the BF Goodrich two-car team that Jim Busby brought here. He destroyed one of those two cars in practice for this race, and he had this announcement on pit road just a few minutes ago.
Well, two things. The left front fender was ajar because apparently we bent the nose frame slightly. Secondly, I flipped the car here 2 days ago, and I think probably my concentration isn't what it ought to be today. So I voluntarily pulled myself out of the car for the balance of the race, and I'll be replaced by Oscar Larari, who's here waiting to do just such a thing. So I basically pulled myself out of the driving team for today because I'm not concentrating as well as I should.
They say in racing, timing is everything. Busby making that announcement after a pit stop. I'm going to put his name in nomination for a Tag Heuer stopwatch. He's going to get the watch and go into the running for the stainless steel and gold men's sports watch we're giving away. He's got Oscar Larari, a very fast driver, in for him in that car. Now, they are currently third in the race, and with Larari now joining Morton and Brassfield, that could be the team to watch. Aikens in the car now with Stuck standing by. That's your lead automobile. And close behind, don't count out the Holbert and Bell team. You've got the top three Porsches ready to do battle here as we head for the finish, and the GTO battle. Jenner, Pruitt, Elliott, and Rudd swapping the positions back and forth, and they're up to 4th and 5th overall. We're going to come back at 7:30 with another live report on progress in the 12 hours of Sebring. Now let's go back to championship wrestling on TBS Sports.
A performance revolution.
It is the 12 hours of Sebring live. We're in the STP Pit Communication Center as this race begins to move toward its conclusion. It's cold down here in Florida. The story is right up front. A battle among three Porsches for the lead. Currently, Hans Stuck is the front-running driver in this event, and we're going to get a progress report on the lead automobile, Jerry Garrett, on pit road.
Okay, we're down here in the pits with the team leader on the lead car, Bob Aiken, and Bob, is the car running wonderfully right now? Seems to be.
Yeah, it really hasn't missed a beat, Jerry. We have no problems at all. We've been babying the car all day long. Haven't touched the boost since we started the race. It's a little under 1.3 bars, and you know, there's absolutely no problem.
Yes. Now Stuck's in the car at the moment. He's running close to his qualifying times, isn't he?
Yeah, he just did a 16 in the pitch dark, which is really fabulous.
Usually your times drop off a little bit at night, don't they?
Well, it's dark out there. This is the darkest place in the world to race, and I sure show up a little bit at night, but you know, that's what these guys get paid for, you know, and he's doing a great job out there. And I understand now that Holbert's in the pit, so we might be able to just ease off a little bit.
And we'll be back with more of the 12 hours of Sebring after these messages. 206 laps complete, 1,000 miles. Car number 5 with West Germany's Hans Stuck aboard is averaging 117 miles per hour, is shattering the old record for this course. Stuck the winner back in 1975. We're now being told that Joe Gartner is at the controls of that car. Holbert and Bell are in second. There you see the 7 car, Bruce Jenner and Scott Pruitt, who are leading in GTO and are 4th overall. Problems on car number 14, the Holbert Bell car. For a report on that in the pits, here's Chris Economaki.
Derek?
Pretty dramatic, isn't it?
Derek, how long has the car been in?
It's been in about 7 or 8 minutes, I think. It seems far too long anyway. They had the wrong pipe already at the time. So we had the same thing at Daytona twice, and it only seems to happen to our car, and I don't quite understand why.
Well, the other cars have been having troubles of some nature. You think this kills your chances of winning?
Well, it doesn't make it look very good. We were catching up really well, and I thought we had it not in the bag, but we were in the hunt. But we lost 2 more laps or 3 more laps now, which puts us right back. But, you know, there's still another 3.5 to 4 hours to go, and we never give up till we see that checkered flag.
Okay, back to you, Ken.
the people who did not give up and came through at Daytona trying to get back in this race. But right now, two previous winners, Bob Aiken and Hans Stuck, have the car that's in the lead. Car number 5, you see it there for just a moment, coming through the darkness at over 170 miles per hour in the main straightaway area of the Sebring course. We'll be back at 8:40 or approximately that time with another report on the 1986 12 Hours of Sebring.
TA radios, built for you to take on the road.
9.5 hours complete in the 34th running of the 12 Hours of Sebring. A major incident has taken place just a few moments ago as Hans Stuck continues to lead in car number 5. Here you see him blazing his way through the night. He is leading now by 4 laps. There's car number 5, the lead Porsche 962. But it has been fraught with anxiety and problems of recent. Take a look at what happened a few moments ago. Car number 5 thought they had a tire puncture. Stuck had been driving for about 30 or 40 minutes. John Bright is retrieving a tire that came off car number 5 and hit a crewman on Jim Downing's car along pit road. The car was actually on pit road when the tire disengaged from the car. It hit a mechanic, Jay Jensen of Atlanta, Georgia, who was standing just about where that group of people are now. It only moved about 50 or 60 feet, and the car had slowed down considerably when that left front tire came off from car number 5. They have changed the tire and then were able to continue on their way. Here is Jerry Garrett with Bill Aiken, the car owner and one of the drivers, Bob Aiken, on car 5.
4, 3, 2, 1. Well, down here in the leaders' pits, we've had a moment of drama. And Bob Aiken, what happened on the car?
Well, Hans radioed in saying that he thought he had a puncture in the left front tire. And he came in the pit row, and just as he came down the pit lane, the left wheel actually came off the car. And it wasn't a puncture, but the hub, the retaining bolt that holds the hub or the wheel on came off, and then it was just miraculous that he made it back to the pits without the wheel coming off sooner.
No damage. The car was repaired. The wheel was put back on. He's back out with no problem.
Yeah, we just put another wheel on and sent him off again. It was really lucky, you know, that it happened in the pit lane and not out on the track somewhere.
We'll have more on this story in just a moment after these messages here at the 12 Hours of Sebring. Story of the car number 5, the lead automobile. Let's go to Chris Economaki by the field hospital.
I've just come from the track infirmary where 37-year-old Jay Jensen, the man who was struck by the wheel, was treated by Dr. Wallace and the staff here at the track. Jensen is an employee of Jim Downing Racing who lives in Atlanta. His injuries apparently may be serious. He can move his arms and legs, but he cannot speak, Dr. Wallace said. He has a suspected head injury. And because there is no neurological clinics nearby, he's being taken by ambulance at this moment to the nearest one, which is in Winter Haven, some miles from here.
Thank you, Chris, for that report. We'll follow that story through the night as we wind down this 12 Hours of Sebring. There you see the standings. The car number 5 has retained its lead by some 4 laps. Running in second is the B.F. Goodrich car. Al Holbert is in third, and then a couple of GTO cars. Bruce Jenner and company in fourth. Ricky Rudd now driving the Roush Ford is running in 5th place overall. More from Sebring in approximately 1 hour. Here in the 12 Hours of Sebring, alongside Bill Adam, I'm Ken Squire. We're under caution for the second time in the race. They're still averaging 117 miles an hour, breaking the old mark by about 4 miles per hour. And now it's really dark out there, little pools of light now and then. What's that all about?
Well, it's an interesting sensation to go through. You would think that the darkness would actually increase the danger, but in fact it becomes more safe. You're coming up to pass the slower vehicles, and they're very aware of your headlights, where in the daytime they might not watch the mirrors too closely, and you really have a great possibility of an impact between two cars. At night, when a GTP car is closing on the smaller cars, you see the headlights. It's very, very evident, so it's really quite safe to do.
Difference 200 miles per hour down about 140. Great story developing in the GTO category of competition, the Bruce Jenner team against that stock car team. And we'll have Chris Economaki by for that story right after these messages from Sebring.
Built for you to take on the road.
All right, let's go to Chris Economaki with this report that he filed just a few moments ago on the GTO championship battle here.
Car 50, lying fourth and leading in GTO, is driven by stock car drivers Bill Elliott and Ricky Rudd. Car number 7, fifth overall, second in GTO, is driven by Bruce Jenner and Scott Pruitt. They're both owned by the same man, Jack Roush. Car 50 has to make 2 more pit stops. Car 7 has to make 1 more pit stop before this race is over. And Jack Roush tells me that once those pit stops are out of the way and there should be an equalizing stop, they should be dead even, he's going to make them race one another. Is that true, and why?
I'm not going to make them race one another. I don't think I can stop them. We're going to hold off the race, though, until we're sure we've won overall, until we're sure we've won the GTO class. Miami, we had a wreck a couple weeks ago where we let 2 Fords get tangled up and then we let a Chevrolet win. We don't mean to do that tonight.
But do you think they'll race one another?
I'm sure they'll race one another. In fact, the car chiefs and the mechanics have already started racing. They got their tires picked out, and they're all shined up. They're going to get the best pit stop on the last pit before they go.
Okay, good luck.
From Sebring, more after this message.
Review now of our Norelco Mile Marker Awards here as we get into the final hour and a half of the race. At the 200-mile mark, Darren Brassfield was leading in a Porsche. He got a Norelco Pocket Memo Dictator. Another one to Hans Stuck, who led at the 400-mile mark. At 600 miles, it was Al Unser Jr. in the Hobart Bell Unser Porsche, and then the dominance really began to show. 800 miles, Joe Gartner. 1,000 miles, Hans Stuck. Look here, Stuck gets 2 Pocket Dictators, 1 for English and 1 for German. We'll be back in 35 minutes to wrap it all up here.
Continuing live coverage of the 12 Hours of Sebring is being brought to you by Champion, makers of Copper Plus, America's best spark plug. And by BF Goodrich TA radios, built for you to take on the road. And by Dodge, an American revolution, a performance revolution.
Approximately 53 minutes remain in the 34th running of the 12 Hours of Sebring. I'm Ken Squire, this is Bill Adam, and we're here to bring you the action as we conclude this event, which is setting some records. One is for temperature. It's really a three-dog night. They say it's one of the coldest nights in Sebring history. And for speed in this event, as you see some of the multitudes, record crowd here today trying to warm themselves. The action on the track has been intense. The speed 2 miles an hour over the record set by the Preston Hen car a year ago. And here you see the lead car, number 5, slashing through the night, continuing to lead by some 5 laps now, Bill.
They have really done such an outstanding job. They've basically stayed out of trouble when all of their competitors around them have just run into endless problems. They really do deserve victory in this race.
Let's go to Jerry Garrett. He's standing by with this pit report.
Well, right now we're expecting the third place car, the 67 car, back in here to get this nose put on it. The problem with the nose that's on the car is that this light fitting cable is broken off and he doesn't have any lights out there. So this is an unexpected blow for the 67 car's hope of picking up a position or two in the late going.
We have had 9 laps of caution thus far. The speed has fallen some, but it's still a record, as car number 5 has led some 134 laps of competition. We've had one serious incident. Jay Jensen, a mechanic on the Jim Downing car, was injured when a tire came off the lead car as it came down pit road. The latest report we have on Atlanta, Georgia's Jay Jensen is he is in serious but stable condition. They said he was conscious. He's been taken to the nearby hospital. There you see some of the statistics on the race. They've completed 1,200 miles since the 11:13 this morning, and the average speed is a doozy, 115.9. As this car number 5, they've untethered it once again, really turning some laps at 123, 124, 125 range in the last hour, Bill.
Well, Hanschtuck really is one of the absolute finest endurance drivers in the world. He has shown brilliance in any car he's in, and in the position that he's in right now, he is almost impossible to beat. The Lowenbrow car, which may normally be a challenger, has really run into unexpected problems. We've seen Derek Bell make a very, very uncharacteristic mistake and actually hit the wall, which caused them some time, and they've run into mechanical problems.
They are watching these pictures live. That's on pit road right now. Car number 14 that won the 24 Hours of Daytona this year, having problems. 3rd overall. Number 67, the BF Goodrich car, has just made a quick stop, gone back on the course, and is maintaining 2nd place, 5 laps down to the leader. 44 of the 77 starters are still in competition. There you see Derek Bell, as he has been for the past several minutes, just sitting in the Porsche 962, entered by the Al Holbert Racing Team, the Lowenbrow car, and they had really hoped to have a good finish here and give Al Holbert his 3rd win in this event.
Yeah, it's somewhat satisfying that at least we can see that Holbert Racing is in fact human. I believe Jerry Garrett has a report for us. Jerry?
Well, Bill, we're down here right now with Jack Roush, who has the 4th and 5th place cars overall, 1st and 2nd in GTO, and they just made a couple of quick pit stops. Why?
Well, we've fueled them and tired them for the last time. We're going to let them race to the finish. It looks like we're far enough ahead of the closest GTO car that we won't have any problem with that securing the win. So we're going to let the cars race to the finish.
No problems on either one right now?
Not that I know of. Ricky Rudd came in a little earlier than we expected him, and the car chief got confused and didn't put tires on the car when he might have, so we made 2 little stops with him. But he's 30 seconds ahead of the Southland car right now, 711 car. We're going to let him race to the end.
Well, 30 seconds apart with this far into the race, quite a feat for those 2 cars.
3 exotic prototypes, and there is one of them, are running 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. That is the 2nd place car. GTO cars are running 4th and 5th. Remember, that's over 3 liters in engine size. GTU also competing under 3 liters. Working on the front of number 67 there, Bill Adam.
It appears that Sebring is doing its usual tricks, just taking a tremendous toll on machinery. I don't know why, but for some reason we always run into problems.
There you see the driver inside car number 67, the BF Goodrich car. Darren Brassfield, the youngster on the team. John Morton with the team, and as you heard earlier, the man who put that team together, Jim Busby, has taken himself out of the driver rotation. He was upside down a couple of days ago here in the sister car, and he thought it had broken his concentration, and so he elected not to continue driving in the 12 hours of Sebring, a race which he dearly loves.
I think that's probably a very wise move on Jim's part, but it's got to be a tremendously difficult decision. Nobody likes to get out of a car, and for someone with Jim's talent and abilities, it's particularly difficult.
LaRowry is now in the rotation. You see them still working in the front. They've put about 4 noses on that car since we began this morning.
Yeah, it seems that I think the concrete runways have always had a bad problem with cars. They don't get along together, and certainly this particular Sebring race has been no exception.
Let me for just a moment, as we watch car number 67, tell you that Roger Mandeville looks like he's on his way to his 3rd win in GTU, doing a marvelous job, and he is maintaining a pace after he was clipped almost on the start. There is Derek Bell, still sitting in his car, anxious to get back out here and try to retain that 3rd position. We could have a GTO car, a couple of them moving up here and taking 3rd and 4th before it's over, as we see 14 resting on pit road. Remember that a GTO car won this race, Jim Mullen and Company, back in 1983 with a Porsche car. It seems now as if Porsche is going to win for the 15th time on the basis of the Hans Stuck, Gartner, Aiken effort here.
Yeah, I think that they will go on and win it, or it'd certainly be a tragedy if anything happened at this stage of the race, because they have done such a good job. But it really is a tribute to the Porsches and the 962s themselves that we saw Holbert's car take a tremendous impact earlier when Derek Bell contacted the wall, and yet here is this car still running the race.
We're going to be reviewing the highlights of what we've seen here in the 12 hours of Sebring a bit later in our broadcast, and you'll see again when Derek Bell clipped the wall at over 100 miles an hour, got this car airborne, and was able to continue amazingly. When he came down, I was sure he'd have broken something in the suspension.
Oh, I was too. I don't think there's another racing car in the world that could have sustained that sort of damage and still gone on at a good pace. I was really looking for something to fail on the suspension and watched the car very carefully for the few laps following, but seemingly suffered no damage at all.
Let's check in with the old editor, publisher of the National Speed Sport News, Chris Economaki, as we see one of the 962s coming out. Chris?
Car 67 has just pulled out of the pits after a pit stop that was made only because car 14 made a pit stop. The reason was that the nose piece on car 67 had been damaged, and the car had lost its ground effect, handling properly. But when car 14 went to the pits, they felt they could take the time to fix the number 67 car. They had taken the old nose that had been damaged, repaired it, drilled it out, and just reinstalled it. It took longer than they thought because it didn't fit quite right, but it sits back out of the track. Now, whether that position has changed or not, whether 67 is still second, you'll have to tell me upstairs. Back to you.
Has not changed as we have it at the present time. We'll be checking it in just a moment. Record crowd along the midway here at Sebring, and we'll be back with more of our live coverage on the Superstation in just a moment. Hairpin and down a straightaway at about 140 miles per hour through the night on this 12-turn, 4.86-mile course. You are watching West Germany's Joe Gartner in car number 5. The Aiken car with Hans Stuck as another co-driver, currently leading, big advantage, 5 laps. Not the all-time record. The all-time record, a 12-lap victory years ago, but it's substantial. It looks like it may hold up and give Aiken his second victory in this race, as well as Hans Stuck his second victory in the event. Joe Gartner, I believe this is his first time here, and he will come away with a Sebring victory. Some have tried for years, like David Hobbs, and as we mentioned earlier, the BMW team was withdrawn. Hobbs' car catching on fire, and then Bobby Rahal in a terrible endo, rolling over some 6 times here the other day, and they withdrew the team. Now you're watching number 14, third place car still. That's the Holbert Bell Unser car, in trouble on pit road.
Well, this has got to be tremendously frustrating for Derek, sitting in the car and just watching all their hard work today dwindling away at a very fast rate. But it's something good for the competitors, that you do see that Holbert Racing can occasionally be beaten.
So as some people concentrate on the motors, others are concentrating just on keeping warm here on a very cold night in Sebring, Florida. Let's update some of the other developments in motorsports news today. We'll go to the GM Goodwrench Motor Week Illustrated Motorsports Report right now. Here's Bob.
Thank you, Ken. Well, in warmer climes, the stage is set for the opening of the Formula One World Championship. But a crash in qualifying for the Brazilian Grand Prix wiped out the Ferrari of Michele Alboreto and the Lola of Patrick Tambay. Neither driver hurt, but they did have to go to backup cars. In qualifying, Brazilians Ayrton Senna and Nelson Piquet wowed the home folks by sweeping the front row for tomorrow's race. Senna in his Lotus, Piquet in his new Williams. Piquet's teammate Nigel Mansell and French Ligier drivers René Arnoux and Jacques Lafitte round out the top 5 in Brazil. In oval track racing, Martinsville, Virginia will host a NASCAR triple header tomorrow. The big story there, Greg Satz, who set the fastest lap in the history of that tight half mile at Martinsville, going better than 101 miles per hour and winning the pole for the modified event. Meanwhile, the rain-delayed Gator Nationals will run tomorrow up in Gainesville, Florida, just up the road. Fastest among the top fuelers, Big Daddy Don Garlits. Kenny Bernstein has risen up to overthrow Mark Oswald and lead the funny cars, while Bob Glidden, the defending world champion, will lead the pro stocks there. That's it for this edition of the GM Goodwrench Motor Week Illustrated Racing Update. Let's get back to the racing at hand.
All right, thank you very much, Bob Varsha. Motor Week Illustrated, his regular camping ground, and you see it every Saturday, 5:35, here on the Superstation WTBS. Live coverage here at Sebring, watching as the Scoot car continues to lead. Let me point out that in the smaller prototypes, what they call the Camel Lights, a Mazda Royale with Jim Rothbart, Jeff Klein, and Mike Meyer continue to make news there. They're up in front. Roger Mandeville is leading in GTU. He won it in 80 and 82 in that category, and his little Mazda RX-7 is percolating right along after he lost a fender on the top. There you see some of the action that takes place just across from where we are right now. That's all part of Sebring and has been now for 34 years. What is Sebring, Florida? You hear about it. It is an institution in motor racing, but Sebring is a great deal more, as we found out in this report.
By all outward appearances, Sebring, Florida is just another southern tourist town, a spot on a road map reachable only by a long drive through endless orange groves. The town was founded in 1912 by George Sebring, who beat the Sunbelt movement by more than a half-century with his vision of a resort community on the shores of Lake Jackson. In 1925, the completion of the luxurious Kenilworth Hotel marked the beginning of 2 decades of booming economic growth. Then, during World War II, Hendrick Field was built as a training base for pilots, and Sebring was really on the map. But with the end of the war, the town faced a period of decline. Enter race promoter Alec Ullman, who, with the famous 24-hour sports car race at Le Mans, France as his inspiration, came up with the idea of using the abandoned Hendrick Field as the stage for an American endurance event. The rest, as they say, is history. Today, Sebring is bustling once again. It's downtown, fully restored. The Kenilworth Hotel is full of guests once more, who come to enjoy Lake Jackson, to stroll in the town square, and once each year, to ride out to Old Hendrick Field, where the world's greatest drivers still come to race.
And some of the world's greatest drivers from the past were back here. You saw Sterling Moss running across for that Le Mans start. He was here racing yesterday in vintage competition in a birdcage Maserati. He finished in second place to a grand-looking Ferrari of Peter Sachs from up New York and Connecticut way. Today in the historic race, Tom Congleton came home first in a 68 Porsche. And I might mention, too, the Firehawk race yesterday. It was Tom and Doug Gowd victorious, but we understand that race is under protest, and there'll be more on that story on Motor Week Illustrated this coming Saturday at 5:35. Our live coverage continues here on the Superstation as we continually watch the Joe Gartner car, number 5, this beautiful red and white Porsche 962, slashing its way through the blackness, leading now by 5 laps in this 4.86 mile track. And it seems as though it is on its way. But seems as though and winning are 2 different things here. We've seen so many occasions at Daytona, here and at Sebring, when in those last moments, the car just wouldn't take the pounding.
Well, it's really interesting that both races do run into night, but for some reason, Sebring really has a very special flavor. I don't know why, because it really is only half the distance of Daytona. It's basically treated as a sprint race, and drivers generally enjoy it. It's not a particularly nice track to drive on because it's very rough. It takes a tremendous toll on equipment, but the spectacle of Sebring, just the enjoyment that everyone has down here, makes this a great event. And driving at night, I think, is something wonderful, too. You're aware of the festive atmosphere. There's campfires all over the place, and it's not quite as remote as Daytona.
Do they bother you, those campfires?
Only once. Back in 1980, there was a very strange atmospheric condition that allowed the smoke from the fires to go up and then actually settle again over the track. it created a dangerous situation at that point. It wasn't only uncomfortable, it was actually dangerous because the visibility was limited to about 30 feet.
We had a couple of fires start today. Both have been put out. My car's out here on the course. The crew here has done just a remarkable job. The officials all around the track, as well as the people from Sebring who come out and contribute their time to make this such a great racing classic. And they've really had their hands full with this event this year.
Oh, they have. But again, they do such an incredible job. And even the flagmen, we've talked about them before, and I don't think enough can be said about them. For people to stand out for 12 hours in this and do a job with the dedication that they show is something special.
Well, we'll be concluding about 11:13. They started 13 after 11 this morning. There you see that lead car around the hairpin another time. And the Bob Akin team looks like they're on their way to victory with Joe Gardner currently aboard number 5. We'll have more from Sebring live on the Superstation after these messages. Climax of the 12 hours of Sebring and its 34th running, and for the 15th time it appears that Porsche has it wrapped up. The only car that comes close is Ferrari over the years, with 9 victories in this 12-hour endurance contest. And right now, this number 5 maintains this lead. It's been running flawlessly. It's been dominating over the past several hours. Here it is streaking along 180, 85 miles an hour through the darkness. They've detuned a bit from the tremendous speeds they turned in qualifying, but that's still mighty quick through the blackness.
Oh, what a record this is for Porsche. It really is incredible. You know, it's a strange situation right now, because when we, and I speak to myself as a driver, not as a broadcaster at this point, but when we're between races, we're looking forward to the next race, anxious to get back in the car to enjoy the sensations of being in a good performance car. But I'll guarantee right now, Joe Gardner is just waiting for that flag to fall. He's saying, come on, flag, where are you?
Jerry Garrett is standing by with the man who has put this team together and is one of the drivers in the rotation.
We're here with Bob Akin right now, and I guess, Bob, we would be guilty of understatement if we said there was an undercurrent of tension and drama here in this pit right now.
Well, I really wish this next half hour would just go away real quick, because, you know, anything can still happen, Jerry, and usually does to us. So we've got one more stop to make for a splash of fuel to get to the end, and then Joe will continue in the car and finish the race. But it, you know, it looks as good as it could at this point, I guess.
Well, you've got to be agonizing over these minutes after what happened to you the last 3 years while leading at this time.
Yeah, and I had a car once that stopped on the very last lap of the Le Mans 24-hour race, 3 miles from the finish, and we didn't get credit for that finish. So, you know, I know what it's like to come right up to the brink and not finish. So I'm not going to breathe a sigh of relief until it's over.
Well, Bob hopes they got their bad luck out of the way with this car. In 2 previous races this year, it's been wrecked both times.
John Bright, the crew chief, has done a marvelous job with this car, so well prepared. Last year, one of the most dramatic things I've ever seen was watching Hans Stuck qualify it. He came through this turn 12 dirt tracking sideways on this old pavement. But then in the race itself, it broke down early in the going.
Yeah, I remember that well myself. There are certain performances by drivers that really stick out in your memory, and Hans' performance last year, I think, wowed everyone. We've talked about that at a number of events, just sitting with different drivers, and you always reflect back and think, God, do you remember that time at Sebring when Hans? Well, that was one of the absolute magic moments when everything worked right, and it was a shame they didn't win that race that year.
Let's reflect back right now on the beginning of this 34th running of Sebring. Bob Varsha has this report on how it all began at 11:13 this morning.
Some 77 cars went to the start for the 34th running of the Sebring 12 hours before a record crowd. The surprises began right at the start, however, when GTO top qualifier Jack Baldwin couldn't get his car started. At the very start, the battle was joined between the pole-sitting Buick of John Paul and Al Unser and his Porsche. First car out was the German Yost team, Le Mans winners. Holbert and Bell took the 14 Porsche out fast, hoping to stretch their lead out early. Meanwhile, a great battle in three-way battle behind that car for second place between Hans Stuck, John Paul Jr. in the Buick, and A.J. Foyt in a Porsche.
will be in the pits in less than 2 laps.
But Foyt was to suffer trouble with that car. A persistent misfire put them in the pit. Then the 14 Porsche of Al Holbert and Derek Bell found themselves with pit problems. They weren't alone. When Foyt and team were able to solve their misfire problems, they were able to get their car back on the track and put it back in the lead. But only until the 86 car of defending champion Bob Wallach and Paulo Barilla. But they too suffered problems and were eventually to fall out of the race. That turned the lead over once again to A.J. Foyt, the Indy legend in the number 8 Porsche, and that's the way they stood as the race approached the 1/3 mark.
Well, now here we are in this last hour, and it's still that number 5, that picture you saw running in second place behind A.J. and Preston Henn's car. We'll tell you more about that story as to what happened to them in a few moments. We're watching now. We understand the leader may be coming in very shortly for a final stop. They're within sight of the hour. They have to be running to cross the line to officially win this race, right, Bill?
That's correct, Ken. And it's something that everybody tries to do. There have been situations of drivers suffering terminal mechanical problems in their cars, maybe parking in the pits for that last lap and just limping around just to get credit for the finish. With the Campbell GT system, there are points awarded for cars in the different class, and naturally you want to try and pick up every little bit you can. This is the reason for the finish being so important.
It's about $125,000 in purse money here, but it's not the purse. This has always been the race for the prestige. This has been the race where Americans first got an opportunity to see international sports car drivers, to see Fangio out of the World Championship Series, to see Sterling Moss competing against the likes of John Fitch and Phil Walters in those early days, and the dad of the man that is currently in 3rd place, Al Holbert, who ran so well on this racetrack. And it has been that combination of international stars and American racers that made the early tradition of Sebring live and continue to what it is today.
Well, Sebring has always been the scene of just some of the most brilliant battles in the history of sports car racing, with Jim Hall and the Chaparrals having a very, very popular win back in the mid-60s. The Fords, when they come out with their GT40s and the 427 cubic inch Ford GT products, the Ferraris, Mario Andretti winning here in the early 70s. Just a tremendous international flavor has always existed here.
Watching the great Pedro Rodriguez in this race. Well, there you see the men who are trying to put their names in the record book, and they continue their way with Joe Gartner now at the keyboard of car number 5, maintaining a 5-lap advantage over car number 67 in second place, the BF Goodrich 962, Holbert and Bell third. Then we have 2 GTO cars. That's Elliott and Rudd running in 4th, the stock car guys, and then Bruce Jenner and Pruitt are running in 5th. Interesting to note that back in 9th is Roger Mandeville. He's leading in GTU, and he has kept that little Mazda right up in there throughout the hunt.
Well, Roger's such an intelligent driver, too, that he has been a champion before. He continues to show just the tremendous ability in a car, and part of that ability, which is being shown to be so important, is to make a car live. Roger can do that, and wasn't really upset by the initial problems with the car, stuck to his predetermined pace, and now here he is leading his class, and looks like he's going on for another class win.
Let's go to Jerry Garrett standing by on pit road.
Well, the leader is due in any minute now. They've got his pit board out here. The crew is up on the wall. They expect to make just a routine stop. They're going to check the tires and put in just enough fuel to get them the last 20 or so minutes of this race. We expect it to be nothing more than routine.
There they are, waiting on pit road for the final stop by that lead car. And you shudder to think what happens when you come in, and sometimes they just refuse to fire and go on their way.
Oh, the possibility of that happening is quite real, too. That Bob Aiken did make a reference to previous problems with this particular race, and he has suffered some of the most heartbreaking losses imaginable.
Well, we saw him on the Superstation in Charlotte last year in that terrible crash when the John Paul car cut loose, came across the infield, hit him and put him right into the wall and destroyed the car. And they were months getting it back together. But here they are, looking now as if they're on their way to win this event, and they're coming onto pit road at this moment. Here's Jerry Garrett.
Okay, the wheels are stopped here on the leading Porsche number 5. Joe Gartner at the wheel. They're coming out taping down a couple of things on the front fender. That's no problem. They're just trying to make sure that everything is ship-shape on this car for the last few miles to go here. They're putting in gas there, just enough, they say, to get them to the finish. They don't need very much, but it goes in very slowly. There's a little bit of fuel running out there that Hans Stuck is concerned about, but it doesn't seem to be enough to cause any problems. He's ready to go back out, and the whole thing is completed here in 33 seconds, and that's no way going to jeopardize that huge lead they have.
Young Joe Gardner, who came highly recommended to Aiken, takes the car back out for the final stint as we arrive closer to that 11:13 time, which will terminate the 12 hours of Sebring for 1986. Lead car back underway, flawless pit stop, refueling, looks to be in great shape to line this race up.
You can notice Hans just going to the front of the car there, just a signal us co-driver with his hand. Just take it very easy, Joe. There's no pressure here. We've got a good lead. Just drive your pace, as you've been doing. Just a little reassurance from one driver to the other.
Let's take a look at some of the other earlier action here today in the 12 hours of Sebring. We gave you the start. Now let's look at some more of the highlights from earlier. This was A.J. Foyt.
A very uncharacteristic wheel put wrong by A.J. Foyt. One of 3 trips off the track, taken within 10 laps for the Indy legend. A.J. was able to continue, but his car fell out shortly thereafter with transmission problems. A.J.'s team not the only one to suffer problems. The 67 Porsche, Jim Busby, Darren Brasfield, and John Morton led for a time, but had an unfortunate confrontation with a tire barrier, broke up the bodywork, tore up a tire, and had to pit, falling out of the lead. That pit stop put, who would you guess, back on front? The 14 Porsche, Al Holbert, Derek Bell, and Al Unser Jr. But things were not all rosy for that team as well, with Derek Bell nursing a bad back that he re-injured earlier this week and had to visit a chiropractor for. Bell found himself coming down the back stretch and watched this confrontation with a cement wall on the outside. 2 wheels up in the air, the car miraculously stays together, and Derek Bell was able to keep it into the lead. Bell hoping to help Al Holbert with his 3rd Sebring race for Porsche. In the lights class, the father-son team of Kelly and Don Marsh and teammate Ron Pauly had their own problems with back markers, going off and crashing into one tire barrier after another, totally demolishing the front of the car and taking that car out of the race. Meanwhile, NASCAR star Phil Parsons, problems of his own. His exhaust set the grass on fire when Phil stopped to examine damage on his front end. Gave a corner worker the opportunity to play Smokey the Bear. The GTO battle throughout this 12 hours of Sebring has been a terrific fight. The number 50 car, driven by NASCAR stars Bill Elliott and Ricky Rudd, battling with Bruce Jenner and Scott Pruitt in the number 7 Mustang throughout the afternoon. And the Camel Light prototype division for specially built smaller cars, Facchetti and Finauto in the 80 car leading for most of the day. They later fell out with mechanical problems, and that's the way things stood as the race reached the 2/3 mark.
The Elliott and Rudd car number 50 have just a few seconds over the number 7 of Bruce Jenner. And meanwhile, number 5 stays in front, trying to win this race. Here's Chris Economaki.
I'm standing at the place where everybody wants to be when an automobile race is over. Victory Lane here at Sebring, Florida. Again, as has been the case in so many years in the past, that a Porsche will be sitting here when the checkered flag is displayed. The interesting story about the race today, though, is Porsche. 6 of their highly touted 962s started this race. 3 have fallen by the wayside, and 3 remain, and they are in the first 3 positions. The second place Porsche has had 4 different drivers and a last-minute substitute. It seems as though when it comes to Sebring, Porsche is unbeatable. Back to you.
We'll be back with more of the live action of the 34th running in the 12 hours of Sebring. After we pause for these messages, stand by for the finish here on the Superstation.
The STP Pit Communication Center in Sebring, Florida. I'll tell you what, it is cold. It's been chilly all day here today, but the red-hot action is going right down to the wire. We've got a tremendous battle going on in the GTO division, and we're going to tell you about that. But first, I have been instructed. I didn't want to do this. I have been instructed to explain why all day I've been walking around on these things. These guys love to race cars out here at Sebring. A little later this year, they're going to run a motorcycle race on this racetrack, and I like to race motorcycles, and This is the penalty. I'm paying for that. It's been a great Sebring, 1986. Let's find out about the stock car guys who came down here from their roundy-round oval track wars to take another shot at road racing. They've done very well at it, and the guy who is sort of the captain of the team, if you will, in that GTO division driving a Mustang is Bill Elliott. Jerry Garrett visited him on pit road just about an hour ago.
In the little bit of time that's left, Bill Elliott, who's got the advantage on this two-car team?
Well, I don't know. We've got a little bit of lead on Scott Pruitt, but Scott's got a little bit more of night experience on Ricky, and I think it's just going to come down to hope both cars hold together, and I hope it's a good race to the end.
You guys don't get too much night racing experience, do you?
No, running with headlights ain't our specialty, but, you know, we've learned a lot since the 24-hour race and coming here and running, and I feel like get us a few more races under our belt, and we'll be pretty good at it, I hope.
The pit stops in this are a little bit different than they are in NASCAR, aren't they?
Well, quite a bit, because you play such a different strategy in running 12 hours in an endurance race than you do running 500 miles like we do. So, you know, you've got a little bit more gas with these cars, plus they got jacks, and they change normally all 4 tires, and you go a little bit longer. So it's just quite a bit of different deal to try to get used to.
And you're running with a guy as a teammate who's usually a rival.
That's true, but you know, Ricky's a good driver, and he's proven it the way he's run out here today, and I look forward to running with him some more.
Now that's what Bill Elliott had to say just a little bit earlier about the battle that they're having in the GTO division. Let's bring you up to date on that. Here's your top 3. The blue indicating GTP class cars. Those are all Porsches. The Aiken-Stuck Gardner team, your leaders, Brassfield, Busby, Morton, and Larari in second. Hobart, Bell, and Unser, after that long pit stop, appear to have third place secured. It doesn't appear they can lose that spot. But here in fourth is Bill Elliott with Ricky Rudd now driving the car on the same lap, and in fact, in a great battle, the other Ford product with Bruce Jenner and Scott Pruitt at the controls. And let's have Jerry update that story now live from pit road. Jerry?
Well, Dave, about 5 laps ago, we timed the interval between the Ribbs, not the Willie Ribbs car, that's the car that Ribbs drove last year, between the NASCAR guys and the Scott Pruitt car, and it was about 30 seconds. Now Pruitt has narrowed that down to 8 seconds, and he's closing in with the next couple of laps. We might see a lead change.
Well, this falls exactly into the format that we had expected. Jack Roush is the guy who ramrods both those cars. He's the team manager, if you will, for both those automobiles. What happened is they got their late race pit stops all synced up. They knew they had the Class 1, and so Jack Roush said, go for it, guys, get out there and race it up. And Scott Pruitt, the road racer, is reeling in Ricky Rudd, the stock car driver. That is a battle that is going to go right down to the wire. They're just seconds apart on the racetrack. It's one of the great stories of this Sebring. Now let's see some of the other great highlights of the last 12 hours of competition here. Once again, Bob Varcher with more of today's highlights.
Thank you, Dave. As the race wound into its third 4-hour stretch, the 46 Buick Hawk of John Paul Jr., Whit Jansen, Ken Midran made its way to the lead. But as the case for most of the other leaders today, it was not to last. A broken oil line forced the Buick to eventually retire. Trouble for others was a boon to this car, the number 5 of Hans Stuck, Bob Aiken, Ken Gartner, who lead to this moment. Meanwhile, an exhaust problem led to a long 12-minute pit stop for Al Hobart, Derek Bell, Al Unser Jr. They dropped to third place. Moving into second, the 67 Porsche of Busby, who stepped aside in favor of Argentina's Oscar Larori. Still debris on the track led to a damaged nose and a long pit stop for that car. They're presently running second. Meanwhile, in the GTU division, despite going off the track twice, Tom Kendall, Bob Reed, and John Hogdell in their Mazda RX-7 managed to hold on to that lead. In the lights class, the 66 car led for a time before the Sebring Gremlins struck their effort as well. As the day passed into night, the battles raged in this 34th running of the 12 hours, and as the moon shone over Sebring for the 34th year, the battle turned to GTO, where NASCAR drivers Bill Elliott and Ricky Rudd in the number 50 Mustang battle an identical car, number 7, Bruce Jenner, the Olympic hero, and Scott Pruitt, the road racer. As Dave mentioned, that battle is going on now. A bizarre incident struck the leaders just a short time ago. When Hans Stuck pitted the car, a wheel came off and struck 2 members of Jim Downing's Campbell Lights crew, Jay Jensen and Mike Culp, both taken to local hospitals. Culp with a bump and is apparently in fine shape. Jensen at last report in serious condition, and we'll keep monitoring his situation. Dave, that brings us back up to date.
And so the 12 hours of Sebring is headed toward its conclusion here on a very, very chilly Florida night. And we're going to go back to Ken Squire and Bill Adam. Guys, we're setting up for a great finish here.
Indeed we are. It appears now as if that Aiken car is on its way to victory. It happens at 11:13 tonight that he will win for the second time this event, as will Stuck. And Joe Gartner will find himself in the record book as the third member of that triumvirate to carry those red and white colors into victory lane. Chris Economaki will be standing by. Doesn't seem like there's much that can stop them now. That last pit stop they made was flawless.
Well, I certainly hope there isn't anything that can stop them, but at this point, Joe is listening to more noises than he has ever heard in his life. He hears the transmission, he hears the motor, he hears the suspension. Everything is making noise, and he's starting to worry.
And he's seeing more shadows.
Definitely. At this point, you start imagining things, and you're just dying to see that checkered flag. You can't wait at this point. You want to maybe take it a little bit easy, but you don't want to lose that concentration. Every so often, you get a situation developing where you do try and slow down just that little bit. You want to take it easy, and because you're doing that, you lapse that concentration and you make a mistake.
A 123-mile-per-hour slalom course in this 12-turn course. We have another new record. Lap 282 completes the old mark for distance, and they've now covered 1,370 miles. Let's take a look at the attrition in the race. There are some of the cars out. Wallach, Levin car that won the Miami Grand Prix retiring. Yenko and Hines, number 51, is out. The Adams Hotchkiss car, the Calasian car, has disappeared from the race in the early going, and there are many more that have retired from this event. One of the major stories here as we take a look at the attrition, the Jags, both number 44 and 04 have retired. They were running pretty stout-hearted effort early, but an oil pump put away the Bob Tullius car, and the 04 car, that's the Brian Redmond Hurley Haywood team, they developed a head gasket problem and had to come out of competition. Again, reporting now that 42 of the 77 starters are still in competition. These are some of the cars out of the event. There's the Hunt Shelton car, number 89, away. Taking a look at some of the machinery that will not be around. Here's Jerry Garrett.
Well, we are down here on pit road with the team leader of the second place car, Jim Busby, and I don't know if you can get first place, but you're going to be able to protect second.
Looks like with this few laps remaining, we're about as many laps ahead as there are remaining. So we're slowing him right down just to make sure that we do lock that second place position.
What are the problems on your car right now?
Right now we've got a broken frame that's holding the nose on, and so it's dragging on the ground, so we're slowing right down so that the downforce on the nose doesn't just actually push it into the ground and rotate it. We've gone through 5 noses, and this is our last one. If we lose this, we've got no lights.
We understand the third place car is not in a position to make much of a move because they have a broken upright. Maybe Chris Economaki has more down pit road.
Well, we're here with Bruce Jenner, who is Scott Pruitt's teammate, watching what's happening. You got the clock out?
Well, yeah, we just saw one go by. Let me see where old Scott is.
All right.
Well, we lost a little bit of ground. We're only 4 seconds, but we caught some traffic. Now we're about probably 6 seconds back.
You think if Scott's going to be able to reel him in?
The biggest problem is tires, you know. He ran a 27.5 on his last lap. That's only a second off what the pole position was, and 4 seconds faster than what he qualified. So obviously his good cool air is doing him a lot of good, but I don't know. It's going to be it's not going to be tough, but not going to be easy at all. Ricky Rudd's good.
Yeah, so Rudd is in, not Elliott, Rudd is in the other car?
Yeah, Ricky Rudd is in the car right now, and Scott's right behind him.
Okay, what was it Jack Roush told you guys about this closing race?
He said we're not racing until we know we've got it at least won, and then when we've got it won, then we go. We started out about 38, almost 40 seconds behind him, about 40 minutes with left in the race, and now we got it down to about 4 seconds. So Scott's doing some driving. Let me tell you, Scott Pruitt is one tough driver.
Okay, Bruce Jenner, the big javelin thrower here, rooting for his teammate Scott Pruitt. Back to you, Ken.
Olympic decathlon champion and currently #1 in GTO series of IMSA, and he's really getting serious about his motorsports in 1968 and intends to run the entire series and is looking for other events to run as well. Watching his teammate right now trying to close up on Ricky Rudd, and the stock car gang is out in front of the GTO classification. They're running 4th overall among the 77 starters, the 42 cars that are still out here existing through this treacherous 12-turn, 4.86-mile course. There's the leader, number 5, sandwiched in between a couple of machines, trying to sort himself out.
It really is remarkable.
There's the Holbert car on pit road.
Scott Pruitt, I think, has just done such an outstanding job today. He's a very young driver, really doesn't have a great deal of experience, but he's driving like someone that has just spent years on Sebring. On the other hand, we've got Ricky Rudd, a man who, well, to be honest, a NASCAR driver, just only a very few years ago, they were thought as only being able to turn left. Ricky has disproven that in a hurry.
Let's check in on the timeliest move award in the race. Here's Dave Despain.
Well, both of those pit reports that we just heard involve players in the timeliness is everything in racing game that we've been playing here with the Tag Heuer people, the people who time a lot of the racing in Camel GT competition. And during the course of this event, we've been giving away some Tag Heuer stopwatches to people who have proven that indeed timeliness is everything in motorsport. Let me take a look at a piece of videotape with you right now. We had a car that was off the racetrack. This was one of the stock car. Oh, this is going to be the pit stop here. Okay, we're going to go right to the pit stop. This is the number 50 car, and we're looking at Bill Elliott and Ricky Rudd as they came in. The point here being, again, Jack Roush. Jack Roush put together the two teams that came down here to race in GTO, and they took a very grand national stock car style approach to this event. They made quick pit stops. They drove long driver shifts to minimize the driver change time, and once it was all done, his two cars were running first and second in class, fourth and fifth overall. Then he said, guys, get out there and go for it. It's the best race on the track right now. And in the final analysis, the guy who is going to demonstrate on behalf of the Tag Heuer people that timeliness is everything in racing is Jack Roush. We got a nice prize for him. My good friend Chuck Trongali has, I want to make sure I get this right, stainless steel and gold sports watch from Tag Heuer. It's going to go to Jack Roush. Let me quickly put in a plug for the other two guys that I think deserve a tip of the hat. One is Jim Busby. Busby took himself out of his race car. He wrecked early in the week. He said, I just can't concentrate. I'm not doing it right. He got out of the car and put in Oscar Larari, and that car is going to go on to second place. And finally, that unsung fireman who put out the blaze under the car of Phil Parsons and kept it from going up in flames. Our congratulations to them, and now to Jerry Garrett.
Well, we were down here by pit road, and behind me is the victory circle area. The race has still got a few minutes to run, but right now Bob Aiken and his crew are already here. They've counted down the laps and decided they can't lose.
Car number 5 in front. There you saw the crew waiting, walking on eggs out there.
Oh, they sure are. They're just so anxious at this point. They're so looking forward to that celebration, but they're a little bit afraid to start yet.
Let me remind you that our next event will be live flag to flag on the Superstation May 18th. The Charlotte race on the road course, Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll be back for the finish tonight, right after these words. We're with you, and we're watching, we believe, the leader here. Looks like he's having a problem, and a serious one.
It looks like he might have even lost a wheel, Kenneth. The left front area is sparking very heavily. I believe he's lost that wheel.
Remember, he lost a wheel earlier. Car number 5 slowing down.
Oh, no.
Some automobiles coming on pit road. Leader coming on pit road. Let's go to Jerry Garrett on pit road.
We see the leader coming into the pits, and it's ironic that most of his pit crew is already down here in Victory Circle standing by for his imminent arrival. So that only a partial crew is down there awaiting this problem.
There you see the leader on pit road. He has a 4-lapper, larger than that advantage now. I believe they're showing that as 8-lap advantage over the second place car, number 67. Here's Chris Economaki.
Okay, I'm down here with Bob Aiken. You've got a big lead. The car's in the pits. He can just wait there till 1 minute of 11 or whatever it is.
Yeah, as soon as the checker is out, he can just drive up here and take the checker right here in the pit lane.
Okay, so the car owner, Bob Aiken, is not at all concerned about this last-minute problem. They have a big lead over the second-place car. In fact, it's won already because even if the car collapsed now, the second-place car could not make up the difference in the amount of time remaining. Back to you.
That is the second wheel problem. Remember, they thought they had a tire puncture. They came around, got the car on pit road. Tire came off. It hit two members of the Jim Downing crew on one of the Camel Light cars. We will update you on that story in a moment. Let's go to Jerry Garrett.
Well, Ken, just now, Ricky Rudd came in the pits and apparently has given the GTO lead over to Scott Pruitt on what may be the final lap of the race.
Indeed, car number 7 is now in front of car number 50 as we get into this last lap. That little dogfight that's been going on in the GTO category among the Roush team participants, going right down to the wire, and they've swapped it another time. I think that one's gone back and forth about 15 times. Overall, on the front of the race, there have been 20 lead changes among 6 drivers here in this 34th running of the 12 Hours of Sebring. Car number 5 is back on the course after having another tire problem. Now, the late report on the injured crew member on Jim Downing's car, Jay Jensen of Atlanta, Georgia, he was taken to the Winter Haven Neurological Hospital, is in intensive care. They say he has sustained a small brain hemorrhage. No surgery is anticipated. He was moving his arms and legs, but had lost his speech at the time that they had taken him into the hospital. That's the latest word we have.
Hopefully he will be all right. I'm certainly that we're all concerned about him.
We were blessed that it was 2 members, that tire coming off, and of course a lot of people stand along that wall. It hit him with such impact that the tire went over the wall and back on the track, and the International Motorsports Association officials were really concerned that one of these cars was going to hit that tire. They got it out to the outside, and then we saw the crew chief on car number 5 go out and get it back.
Well, with these vehicles all being rear-engine cars and just really having a fiberglass shell at the front, to hit a 50 or 60-pound unit like that could cause some tremendous damage and could be very, very dangerous.
With wheel 75 or 80 pounds on these tires.
Very easily. This is just amazing, just this last lap dramatics. I'm sure Mr. Aiken's going to need more than his product, his sponsor to drink if any more of this happens.
Joe Gartner driving in front. Brassfield in the 67 is maintaining second. Holbert and Bell, Al Unser Jr. in third, all 962 Porsches. In fourth spot, change of position now. We have Jenner and Pruitt up there. Scott Pruitt, that youngster, one of the major injuries at Miami was sustained by his mother. She fell over a ball hitch and broke her arm. She's been here cheering throughout the entire 12 hours. And her son is up in fourth position now as the Elliott Rudd car falls back into fifth. And then in the sixth position overall is the Rothbarth car. There's the checkered flag coming out, going down for car number 5. And that is Hans Stuck, West Germany there, greeting Joe Gartner as he comes across the line to win the 12 Hours of Sebring for 1986.
That is really tremendous. Bob Aiken has tried so many times, and to finally have this happen is just his dream coming true tonight.
Well, last year they had a tire explode, eliminated the car. The year before, remember, they had that nut freeze on the wheel that put them out way late in the race when they thought they had it won. 287 laps have been completed. It's a new record for distance in 12 hours. That car has covered 1,394 miles, and there is a new record for speed of the 12 Hours of Sebring. All going to this red and white car number 5. Chris Economaki waiting to greet the winners in victory lane. We hope to be getting word of the second and third place finishers and meet the GTO champions as well.
This is marvelous. You know, Bob is just one of the most highly respected and best liked individuals in the Camel GT series. He has gone through so many setbacks and so many disappointments. To finally get this win just makes it doubly special for him.
There you see Hans Stuck on the left, the Formula One driver. His father, a very famous Grand Prix driver back in the 30s.
And what an outstanding job he did today.
That's his third ride now with that team. He'll be around all season with car number 5. That's going to be exciting to see him in race after race this year. Coming up, of course, again, May 18th, Charlotte, live, flag-to-flag coverage here on the Superstation from top to bottom on that one. Now the multitude begins to gather. The anarchy will reign, as it always does here. The best laid plans and all that definitely go agley here at Sebring when we get down to victory lane time.
And it's such a good opportunity just to say what a marvelous job that Jack Roush and his team have done today.
Jenner and Pruitt will be given the win at GTO, and they weren't given that at all. They had to fight for it. Then in the Camel Light Series, the small prototype cars, it's going to be the Mazda Royale of Rothbart Meyer. They're going to come home in the 6th position in the race, first in their category. And Roger Mandeville has done it again. He won it in 80 and 82 in the GTU, the under 3-liter classification. He is going to bring his car home in 8th and first in GTU. Here's car number 5 wending its way around this 4.86-mile course on this old B-17 training base at Sebring, Florida. And here in the darkness, elation, and let's join some of it right now with Chris Economaki in Victory Lane.
Okay, we're down here with the happy winners. How you doing, beautiful? Hey, Bob?
Yes, sir.
1962 you came here to begin with?
1960, Chris. Came here to run a minor event, forerunner curtain raiser to the 12-hour, and I watched the guys in the 12-hour. At that point, it was Sterling Moss and Phil Hill and those guys, and I thought, boy, I really want to do that someday.
You know, Bob, this morning somebody said, that's Mr. A in number 5, Mr. Almost. How many times have you come close here?
Well, we've led this race about 5 or 6 times over the last, since we won it in '79, and always, you know, at a point where we're contending to win, but always had something go wrong, and this time it just didn't happen.
You know, Bob, very rarely does somebody that's an American businessman that does racing as a hobby come down here and win this race. It's quite an achievement. How much time do you have to devote to the sport?
Well, fortunately, I have a very good crew chief in John Bright, and when the car gets back to the shop, I really can just about forget about it, except to stop in the morning or on the way home from work. And you know, I let it go on its own, and it works out very well. I just worry about the sponsors.
Okay, now this fellow Gartner you got from Austria, how did you find him and why did you pick him?
Well, he's a Yokohama contract driver who I hadn't heard about until Bert told me about him and suggested I give him a try, and we tried him at the finale, you know, last fall, and he did a great job. So
the hat dance is beginning.
Yeah, the hat dance is beginning. All right.
So how are you going to celebrate, Bob?
Well, I haven't had a lot of chance to think about it yet, but little champagne I see stacked up behind us. I imagine we'll drink most of that, spray the rest of it on the crowd. Right.
What about the sponsor's product?
Well, we have a little Coke here, too, yes.
The race is sponsored by Coca-Cola, and your car, it's a very appropriate victory.
Yeah, for Coca-Cola and Yokohama and Paradigm and the people that have supported us all this year, it's a fabulous victory. I'm glad we're able to do it for them.
Okay, thanks a lot, and good luck to you, Bob. Here comes the winning car. Hans Stuck is playing gatekeeper over there. He is really an effusive guy. We'll get a word with him in a few moments. That's if we don't get run over here by the winning car coming in. Well, at least it's got some brakes, and believe me, it's pandemonium breaking loose down here. Whatever damage was done to the car during the race is nothing to the damage it's going to sustain in this frenzied Victory Lane celebration here. There's Hans Stuck on top of the car. Joe Stuck is from Bavaria, Gartner's from Austria, and Aiken, of course, is from Ossining, New York. And you can see the real pandemonium that prevails here. They're standing up in the car. They wouldn't let you touch this car this morning. Now they're standing on it. What a racing car, and what a happy group of guys winning the 34th annual running of this famous 12-hour endurance race, the most famous endurance race in North America. And it continues on here. I had breakfast with Aiken and Gartner this morning, and they were very sedate, very specific about what they wanted to have so they could go 12 hours. Golly, everybody's getting soaked here. Okay, and now let's step away, and here's Jerry Garrett.
Well, we're down here with the GTO winners right now. Bruce Jenner, you watched your co-driver come in with the victory here on the last lap virtually in the race. That had to be pretty exciting for you from the pits.
Yeah, it was very exciting. It's the toughest part to be in the pits and everything. Scott is one hell of a driver. You know, you really have to give Scott a lot of credit. You know, I'm fortunate enough to be able to drive with him. But we've had very frustrating. We lost 24 hours of Daytona in the last half hour. And then at Sebring, in the last lap, Scott got knocked off the track, and I looped it, so we both didn't win there. So we came back here. We wanted to win, and it's really tough to win against such a tough team. You know, the Folgers Mustang and the 711 Mustang are Roush cars, and they're very well prepared, and they're tough to beat your partner, you know.
Well, Bruce Jenner with a big lead in the GTO point standings right now. And Scott Pruitt, you helped put your teammate out into a big lead, and you did it with a dramatic pass there just about on the last lap.
Boy, I'll tell you, it was getting down there to the end, and we were really going hard. And coming out of the back, both of us ran out of gas. Mine got going again. We came in, filled up, and I took off. And next thing I knew, it was the end, boy. I'll tell you, the car ran perfect. 711 Mustang, man, it went great for us, so.
Yeah, you got to give, wait a second, you got to give the car a lot of credit, but Scott, in the final laps, ran a 27.5. That's almost 4 seconds faster than he qualified.
Sandbagging, huh?
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, Chris Economac has another report down pit road.
Okay, we're here with Joe Gartner standing on this overstrained winning car. Joe, congratulations, a fine drive. How many times have you raced in America?
That's my third time now, I guess. Yeah, the first race was the Daytona finale last year.
And your third time, and you're here a winner. What kind of a day was it for you at the wheel out there?
Oh yeah, I thought it's a wheel bearing gone, and I was really afraid about because I didn't know how long the race will take. But okay, to put another wheel on was no problem.
And what about the wheel problem? Were you involved in that?
Yeah, I lost the wheel 2 laps before the end, but we put a new wheel on, and in the last lap I lost it again.
Really?
Yeah, so I won the race on 3 wheels.
A 3-wheel victor here. Okay, Joe Gartner, the winner. We'll be back with more from Sebring after these messages.
Well, the number that's up there, number 1 on the board, number 5. And here's how he came across the line, averaging 115.852 miles per hour for a new speed record as Hans Stuck leaped in the air to greet his fellow German compatriot who he drove so much of this race with. And Chris Economaki is standing by with Hans Stuck now.
Hey, Stucky, a new speed record. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's what we're here for.
I guess your father would be proud of you as a big racing driver.
Unfortunately, I can't see this now, but he will be very pleased, you know.
What about your day on the track? Did you have a good time, or did you have a lot of trouble?
Yes, we had a very good plan for the race, you know. We talked before. We do laps between 19 and 24. That's what we stick to all the race. Stay out of trouble. That was winning the race, you know.
Okay, continued good luck to you. Hans Stuck, one of the 3 winners. That's it from Victory Lane.
Well, up here in the STP Pit Communication Center, we've assembled all the troops. Champion Spark Plug Racer of the Week, an institution on Motor Week Illustrated. Champion Spark Plug Racer of the Day. You don't get a chance to think about it. I want a quick nomination from everybody. We'll start at the end. Bob Varsha.
I nominated him earlier in the day, and I'll stay with him. For playing in pain, Derek Bell and Al Holbert's number 14.
1 for Bell. Ken Squire.
I'm going to go with Aiken. I just thought that was a marvelous performance all the way through.
I save tiebreaker rights for myself. Bill Hennessy.
Gartner came into this race and experienced this particular racetrack, took the car to the front, kept it there, and remained calm throughout the entire 12 hours.
Lynn St. James.
I've got to have a tie with Bill Elliott and Ricky Rudd. First time in this kind of a track. They're Ford people, and they did a super job.
How about Bill Adam?
I'll go with Hans Stuck. I think he ran a super hard pace at the start when it was required of him, yet he kept the car out of trouble. No impacts at all.
Look, here we are again. Now, I always get to pick, right? Nobody votes for the same. Am I right?
St. James, she's a Ford driver anyway. I mean, you can't count that.
You want to just cross that off?
Oh,
that
yeah.
was prejudice on her part. But I've still got to decide this thing. I'm going to go with Stuck because when you can go out on this racetrack and qualify at the speed he did and then come back after 12 hours of racing and run as fast at night as you qualified, to me, that's a real race driver. I think Hans Stuck. That's my pick. Champion Spark Plug Racer of the Day from a very, very impressive field of candidates. We're not done with all of you people. You see Stuckey celebrating there along with Aiken, his teammate. Gartner got a vote. That whole team obviously nominated for that honor here as they have conquered this 1986 running of the Sebring 12-hour. Now let's take a moment and kind of reflect on it. We have here all of the people who have covered this event from the start, 13, 14 minutes late. Jerry Garrett has joined us now. Jerry, you're too late to vote. That's a shame. But let's begin with you in our reflection on the event. I'd like everybody to tell me how they're going to remember this Sebring. Are you out of breath, or can you give me a quick thought on that?
Well, I'm both, but I think that the GTO finish was electrifying for the fans, the way that came down to just like the last lap. and Prue was able to pull it out and win. That was NASCAR fashion.
It really was a late charge right down to the wire. Bob Varsha, your reflections on this event.
Well, aside from remembering it as probably the coldest event of any kind that I have ever been to, I think we ought to put in a good word for Bob Akin. Last year we saw him crash hard at Charlotte. This year we saw him crash hard at Daytona. They've had to rebuild that car so many times. We saw him be very gracious in defeat, and I'm proud to say that we've seen him be very gracious as a winner today in Sebring.
Big day for him. Ken Squire, you've seen it all from the best vantage place in the house.
A couple of things stand out. A, the stock car guys and how well they did here. It really speaks well for that new NASCAR series they're developing. Bill Elliott's a great road racer, and Ricky Rudd certainly proved it today. Parsons looked good out there earlier before. They had some problems. They really came on strong, and I thought Roger Mandeville did an outstanding job in that GTU category.
The crossover from stock car racing to sports car racing and the other way around could be great for all forms of motorsport. I mean, that's just a good story with plays every week.
Wait till they get to Watkins Glen up there in August. These guys are going to be something.
Well, the celebration goes on in Victory Lane. And, Chris, I'm going to give you a minute to catch your breath and go to Bill Adam. Bill, when a race driver comes up in the broadcast booth, you obviously have an interesting perspective on the event. How do you see this one?
Well, like Bob, I agree. This is the coldest event I've ever been to down here. But, yeah, I'm really very pleased for the Bob Akin crew. I think they have just done a wonderful job today, and particularly happy for Bob himself. He is such a nice, a well-liked, well-respected individual. To finally get the icing on the cake, it's a wonderful day for him.
Lynn, you were with us today on Motor Week Illustrated as co-host, and we enjoyed that. I know in a lot of ways you would rather have been out there on the racetrack. We'll see a lot more of the Ford Probe in the sprint races this year, but from a spectator standpoint this year, you're Sebring.
Well, it was a record fast race, you know. It was a record speed. It was also very safe, only 2 cautions, and I'm glad to hear all of you now praising Bill Elliott and Ricky Rudd and all those Ford drivers that I just voted for and you guys shot down. But I was very heartwarming when I saw the checker drop, even though I was watching it from up here rather than from the car.
We are running out of time. Chris Economaki, Bill Hennessy, I know you guys had fun. Chris, I'm sorry, we ran fresh out of time. I've never had more fun on 3 legs in my entire life. We've just about wrapped it up here. A big day for Akin and company. The Sebring 12 Hours is history. You've seen it live on TBS Sports. Thanks for being with us.
A promotional fee and consideration paid by STP. For nearly 3 decades, America has been driving and winning with STP.
STP is the racer's edge.
And by Goodwrench, Mr. Goodwrench and General Motors Parts. No one knows your car better than Mr. Goodwrench. No one. And by Hoyer. Tag Hoyer, your partner today and tomorrow. In aviation, nautical sports, and motor racing, Tag Hoyer's unsurpassed technical and styling skills provide the top range of watches and timers.
Continuing